Hey everybody, welcome to the Growing with Fishes podcast. This week we have Rob Bob with us. Um, First off, we have Brain Grow.
Welcome, everybody.
We have ECSD.
Hi, everybody.
We have Mr. Green Jeans.
Yo, hey everybody. Thanks for joining us.
We got Old Park Grows.
Hey there. Hope everybody's having a groovy day, and glad you're stopping by the podcast and looking forward to having a good time tonight.
And we got Rob Bob, all the way from Australia. He's in the future.
Yeah, it's Friday already.
So he's the second Australian guest we've had a chance to get on the show, so we're super excited. And for those of you who don't know, Rob Bob has one of, if not probably the most successful YouTube channel on about aquaponics. He has a plethora of really great videos, covers a really wide range of crops, and we're super happy to have him on the show today. Why don't you tell people a little bit about yourself and your channel?
Cool. Well, the channel originally started off as a way for me to stay sane. I'm a stay-at-home dad, and we home educate our kids for some reason. So yeah, I had to stay busy. Started doing garden videos for YouTube, and just naturally progressed onto aquaponics. And I read a story about a guy throwing his rod out the back door, fishing for barra in his backyard. So sea bass. Yeah, so I pretty much all took on aquaponics from there and just incorporated it into the YouTube channel, and the rest is history. So that's pretty much all it. And yeah, I'm just a stay-at-home dad, so I get to hang around social media fair bit and answer questions pretty much all daily on newbies coming into aquaponics, always wanting to know how to set up a new system and whatnot. So I'm actually working on a new series now, trying to start from what is aquaponics all the way through for the veggie side of thing, of course, because any growing of cannabis here in Australia is highly regulated. So there we go.
But a lot of the techniques we talk about, and a lot of methods that you can use for tomatoes and peppers and cucumbers, work really, really awesome for the stuff that we're allowed to grow here in the States. So they're all what works for one works for the other, and especially in terms of silica. A little bit of silica makes a night and day difference for squash and cucumbers and things like that. Why don't you tell a little bit of maybe some of the more interesting things that you've learned along your journey with your channel and doing your aquaponic stuff?
Well, the first thing I've learned is don't take forums for gospel. When designing systems, and just the best thing I could pretty much all say that I learned is source information from everywhere, from blogs, from forums, from YouTube, and then try and nut it out yourself. Just on the basic information on like how to start up a system and run it. I suppose not going big straight out of the gate would be another lesson I've learned. Not so much myself, but watching other people set up these heroic systems, we'll call them. Throwing 100 fish into a 1,000 litre or 250 gallon IBC, and throwing a grow bed off to the side, and then complain and whinge to everyone because all their fish are dying at about the 3-4 month mark as they put on a bit of biomass. I've fielded a lot of questions along those lines over the last couple of years. Being patient as well, learning just to set it up and just watch it and observe it and see how it goes through the cycles of the seasons, observing how your plants grow, best positions for setting up beds. Yeah, I'm probably just rabbiting on now.
No, that's cool. Is there any in particular any weird problems you've run into that you maybe learned a lot from viewers on your show? As far as solutions?
None that jump out. The biggest issue I've had with my system here would have to be solids, mainly because I overstocked the grow beds for the amount of fish we had for a time there, and I fell crook for a little while, and I wasn't able to clean out the radial flow filter. Ended up with a bit of a solids build up in all the beds, actually, a couple in particular. And they just threw the chemistry out of whack and ended up with a pH spike and potentially a big nitrite spike. But I suppose, yeah, not bit of a hard one. There's so much shopping around for parts. Like for you guys out there who want to do things DIY, I know you can buy off the shelf kits and things like that, but the amount of money I've seen people pour into aquaponics, just buying without thinking, not shopping around and looking online. Here in Australia, we've got some awesome plumbing supply places that, you know, you're saving 30 to 50% what you can get from the corner big box hardware store we have here. Yeah, so.
I have a question. I hang out at Ouroboros Farms, which Ken runs up here in Half Moon Bay in California. And I've also seen a facility that Steve had been working on when I first met him a couple of years ago down in San Diego. And something I noticed in both facilities, and I want to know if it's the same down in Australia, you know, with the Coriolis effect, as I noticed that the fish always swim this way around the tanks up here. Down in Australia, do they swim the other way?
They swim against the current, mate. They swim against the current. I've noticed.
That's pretty my only question about the aquaponics down there. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not too good about talking about myself, folks, but I'm pretty good at fielding questions and things like that. So
I was going to say it's great that you brought up that you're going to a supplier. That's what we discussed that on the show, and I teach that too. Like to go to an agricultural supply to get your, you know, anything you need to use, to go to a plumbing supply to get your plumbing. Don't go to the big box store. That's great advice right there. I love that.
Well, the small guys here are floundering as much as they are over there. And 9 times out of 10, you can actually speak to someone who's had some experience with, especially pumps. Like you walk into our big B store here in Australia, and you ask them about flow rates and head heights and all that sort of thing. And they just stare at you and point to the box. I mean, yeah, I suppose you guys get the same with Lowe's and Walmart and all the big ones over there. At least with an ag store, they've got, you know, there's someone there who's worked in irrigation or is talking to the reps one-on-one, finding the latest products and the like. So
right. Well, not only that, it's a real good idea to do the research up front, so you know what you're talking about when you go to the ag supplier. Because I mean, when it comes to hydroponics or aquaponics, you call up the big agricultural universities and they don't have a clue what you're talking about. So yeah, you're right with the irrigation. You working with an irrigation specialist, or there's another company you could go to for wholesale, an irrigation company that will even help you further than plumbing, because they'll have actual fittings and adapt things that you adapt plumbing to irrigation, and how to run irrigation. Systems.
Yeah, because it's frustrating trying to run from, say, the poly down to the PVC and trying to get adapters to fit and all that. You walk into the store here and you're playing Lego for a couple of hours, walking between aisles, because of course one's up one end and one's up the other end. So
been there.
Yeah.
Been there. 3 hours in the plumbing department.
The other thing is
build up my cart, then dump stuff back out of my cart because I found something different, and then stand there for another hour. And yeah, I've been there.
Well, the other thing is too, like there's stuff, our stores only have a certain range. Like they're looking at 45s, 90s, Cs, and that. I walked into our local plumbing supplier, and I said, I want to split the flow in a T, and he goes, oh, okay. So do you want equal pressure both sides? Yeah, not a problem. He goes, oh, they sell PVC wires. So, you go into a big box store here and you've got no idea what's available. So,
no, luckily our big box stores has all that pretty much, but so we're a little bit luckier than you are in that respect. But they do have the 90s and the 25s and all that stuff like that. But still, plumbing supply is the best way because you can buy a box.
Yeah.
When you buy a box of 90s, it's a lot cheaper than buying them one at a time out of the bin. Hey, Steve.
Sorry, trying to make sure everybody gets their links here.
So we having any questions from chat yet?
Yeah, Cannabis Origami says, Didn't you have an issue with salt buildup in one of your videos?
Yeah, I treated the system with it was roughly 5 to 6 parts per million of salt because we had a huge issue with it was basically I dropped the pH too low, the water temp was too low, or it was too hot. No, it was last summer. It was too hot, and the silver perch ended up getting lesions all over them. A couple of them really bad. I lost about four or five over about a month period, and the salt was in there as basically a health tonic for them. Looking back, hindsight, wonderful thing. I was stressing out at the time. I wasn't feeling too good, and I just dumped it straight in the system. I could have split it. I could have had the hydro running by itself, whacked a new pump on, and had the fish offline for a while. But yeah, I stuffed up, so I ended up with quite a large amount of salt running through the hydro side as well as the fish. But you know, that happens.
Yep.
But it's all down. It's all down now. It's all under 2 parts per million. So, and then with this last lot of rain, it's probably lower again.
Doesn't salt build up because of evaporation eventually in the system, or do the plants and the fish retake it back up?
Well, so certain microbial interactions actually produce sodium as well over time. Like if you just run you'll actually see this too. Soil growers that do no-till and stuff long term, they'll notice the bottom of their beds will have a higher sodium level, and it's just through the microbial processes and fungal processes going on, even if it's not from the water source. Just over time.
And I meant parts per thousand, by the way, not parts per million.
Yeah, it was 2 ppm would be pretty low for sodium. It's pretty hard to get water these days that are that low. So you do a lot of root crops and things on your show or your channel. Do you want to talk a little bit about that? Not a lot of people do root crops.
What do you mean root crops?
So you do garlic and other tubers and root,
root. Oh yeah, yep. Now I gotcha. In the aquaponics, I've had garlic's been a bit of a hit and miss for me. Some of it, I'd say the first 2 crops pretty much were rotted in the bed. I don't know if that was an issue with the depth they were planted. I tried to stagger some, so they were just touching the top of the high tide mark under the clay. I had some buried further down, and I pretty much lost them all. Sweet potatoes go like banana. They just love it. A lot of vine though sent down onto the ground, and we ended up with a massive tubers in the soil next to the system. The tubers that actually grew in the system, pretty small and manky, but loads of leaves, which is what we grow a lot of sweet potatoes for. We try and beat the grasshoppers to them and the flea beetles and try and harvest the greens for salads and that sort of thing. Potatoes, I haven't tried potatoes in the system, but I've always wanted to. I've been told that there's a couple of people who have tried the core, the coconut, just throwing them in some of the cloth bags or containers just at the high tide mark and letting it wick up. But space is a bit of a premium for me, so I haven't really had a crack at that yet. But we've got an expansion on the way soon, so I might.
Yeah,
when you fail with potatoes. Go ahead, Fish.
I was just going to say with the garlic, I tried it the way you have before, like you said, where you put it into the media directly at around the high tide mark, and it didn't work. But when I tried the fabric pots with the cocoa and just let it wick up, everything from carrots to garlic bulbs and potatoes have worked just fine for me. So that's definitely one way to go. But like you're saying, it's a little bit of a space eater. So what I'd recommend, so that way you're maximizing that space, not just on the top of that fabric pot where you're planting things, cut some slits on the side of it, and you can have things growing out the sides of it as well. Then you're using that vertical space.
Yeah. It'd be sweet to throw a couple of strawberries down the side too. Because that'd be the long-term crop, and then you have the rest in the top section.
Yeah, exactly. Then you're inviting mites, though.
Yeah, as long as you make sure you don't have spider mites, Strawberries always have spider mites.
Yeah, I haven't had an issue with them here, but I've had other mite issues here.
Oh, yeah, I like to tell people if they're going to buy strawberries at the the hardware store or anywhere around that's got them, you're basically just paying for mites and they're throwing in the strawberries for free.
Yep. Yeah, the best way for them is to soak them. You can soak them underwater for about 2 hours, and that'll kill any mites on them. It won't kill the eggs, but it'll kill the adults at least, or at least get them to float off. The other thing you can do is lemongrass oil. Kapow is really good.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I was gonna say, what about a kapow dunk when you first get them?
Yeah, you could do that. There's a oh man, the bug lady that
Suzanne Wainwright Evans.
yes, her.
I got you, bro.
No,
good job.
There's a whole story behind that and why. Yeah. Anyways, there's a long story behind that. But she was saying they use I think it was a pyrethrum dunk, but I'm not 100% sure how that would work for.
Oh yeah, that's an old school clone thing. You would take a clone and dump it in the pyrethrum bath. Yeah, that's organic, So yeah, you could pyrethrum dunk too. I was thinking that earlier, but I always like listening to all y'all's newfangled ways to do everything. So
water's great.
On the pyrethrum,
Like
if you're
Steve said.
growing stuff to concentrate, the pyrethrum concentrates real nasty. Just so you know.
You have to do it only for clones or for veggies.
Right.
The trick with water against spider mites is to think of it more as a mechanical action. It's not so much the soaking, about getting the eggs off, Steve, is if you swoosh the plant up and down a lot, if you literally give it a lot of agitation in the water, then you can, and you take your magnifying glass and look back at the leaves, you'll see you can knock them almost all off completely just by more mechanical agitation in the water. You know what I mean? It's think of the water as a mechanical way of wiping the mites off.
Like you're making spider mite hash.
Yes. What I do is I use the water to water the plants, man. So and I left some out the other day for a couple of days, and it's got a lot of mites in it. So there was even a protein scum on top. So I bet there's a little bit of nutrients there, right? And get this, how about the plant?
Fermented bugs. I like it.
I bet the plant starts to taste like dead mites. I bet the other mites don't like it. The other mites are going, man, there's something wrong with it.
You know about that, right? The hormones, a lot of the insects, where if they detect.
That's what I'm talking about. Yeah.
There's actually there's a product on the market. I can't remember the name of it. There actually is a product on the market that is strictly just an isolated protein for aphids. That's like their distress signal.
Yeah.
I can't remember what the name of the product is. I'll think of it by the end of the show.
Excellent.
I was just going to say quickly, carrots. Carrots have grown all right in media beds for me. So is taro to a degree, the gingers, turmeric, and water chestnuts.
So what are your on that last topic? What are your go-to pest control in Australia for aquaponics?
The hose. For aphids, I've got to the point with the onion aphids, the black suckers, the ones that go purple when you squeeze them. I pull the plants out and hit them with the hose and then replant them. I can't. I've tried diatomaceous earth. That's supposed to be the miracle cure for aphids. It doesn't work.
It does work for mites, though. I've had great success with mites, spider mites. Since I treated my grow room with diatomaceous earth, I've never had a spider mite since.
Okay, cool. Because we get board mites.
But thanks for bringing it up. That got me to bring up my diatomaceous earth, and we move on. So, sorry.
So do you guys have beneficial nematodes? Is that something that they sell in Australia, or probably not? Because
if they did, I would have thrown them through the soil beds by now. Yeah, no, with the aquaponics, I'm pretty much all BT based, like Dipole, Nature's Way Dipole is the only brand you can get here in Australia of it, by the way, for us mere mortals. I've seen people use neem and the soap sprays and all the rest of it, but even spot spraying, they go to all the problem of putting newspaper under the plants and spraying. I suppose if you were desperate, I'd rather pull the plant out, spray it, and then put it back in myself.
Right.
Give it a shower.
It's media bed. Yeah. Grasshoppers, we just got to grin and bear it. They're smashing us here at the moment. Everything has a hole in it. Every leafy green I pick for dinner comes with ventilation holes, so it goes down faster. Yeah, but I suppose aphids and grasshoppers are pretty much all the worst for us.
Oh.
Oh, and there's we do have isolated pests, like the Okinawan spinach gets an egg pie moth, and they can they lay cluster eggs, so you end up with they can strip a branch in a matter of days once they get a bit of size to them. I mean, everyone's got cabbage, butterflies, caterpillars, so yeah. That's about it pest wise. Oh, and rats. They only turn up every couple of years.
So you want to eat the roots?
No, the rats were going all the strawberries, the peppers.
Your fruit. Okay, yeah.
They're eating your peppers? That's interesting.
So how do you usually deal with those?
Bullthorn peppers, so capsicums, just the sweet ones. With the rats, snap traps. It's tried to do the humane thing, tried to, not that you can be humane with something that destroys your crops. But as if they're the introduced species, we catch them in the humane first, and if it looks like it's the introduced species, we snap trap them. If they look like the natives, we humane trap them and move them down, because we got our own native mice that we're supposed to protect by law, so they go to the nature reserve.
Oh wow, that's crazy.
Yeah.
Wow.
I feed the ones I catch to my pythons.
Yeah, well, if we still had our pythons, they'd probably have one or two as well. So
there you go, python in the greenhouse.
We've got enough eastern browns around. I'd say they'd knock off one or two. So.
Oh yeah, everything tries to kill you down there. I forgot the spiders and the snakes.
Here in California, they're so foofy. They make you kill your mice before you feed it to your python.
That's the law here in Australia as well. You got to buy them frozen.
Good golly, Miss Molly!
Really?
It's a freaking snake.
Wow.
It's a snake. Let it do a snake thing.
Right?
In saying that, I have seen rats attack snakes and damage them. So then again, that's feeding a big rat to a snake that wasn't quite ready for it.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can't feed animals to stressed out reptiles because they will not eat it. And I've seen the same thing. I've seen a rat kill like a, 15, 20 pound boa. And I told my friend, I was like, he's not going to eat it right now because he's stressed out. And he left it in there and ended up killing the snake.
Wow.
Yep.
I've seen some pretty wild stuff working in the pet trade too. You know what's weird? You got certain snakes will only eat stuff if it smells like a frog. So you keep tadpoles around or a big frog around, and you just rub the mouse on the back of the frog, and then you feed it to them. And like, there's all kinds of weird tricks you have to do. What was it? The caiman lizards, they eat canned snails. I mean, there's all kinds of weird stuff depending on what reptile you get and how exotic you get. I love monitor lizards, or I think they call them goannas where you are. They're really, really awesome pets, super smart.
Steve, which is the frog where if you lick it?
Oh, the Sonoran desert toad.
I had a feeling you'd actually know that. Okay, cool.
I worked in the pet trade a long time.
I went into a remand centre walkthrough before they opened it down in Wacol, decades ago now. And they had some of the stuff that the prisoners used, and cane toad skins. They used to roll it up and throw it in their durries, in cigarettes, and get them off the canes, the poison. I know people who joked about licking them, stress them out, a little bit of ooze comes and they lick it and get off. But yeah, well above and beyond my level of enlightenment.
So if you ever want to read a really good book, there's an incredible book on the first guy that ever figured out that you could smoke Sonoran desert toad venom. It was like in the 50s or 60s, and he knew that somehow figured out that there was high amounts of DMT in the venom of the Sonoran desert toad, and he got a bunch of venom, did a sample, came back with lots of DMT, and he goes, well, I don't see anything here that can kill me, and there's lots of DMT, so I'm gonna just dry a bunch out and smoke it, and we'll find out what happens, without any idea if it would kill him or not or anything. And sure enough, he did it. And then they wrote this book on it, and then on a false alias. And there's an incredible, I think it's a This American Life or one of the NPR shows. They did a whole thing on it. Oh, looks like we had something on the internet happened there. We lost half the people.
The only thing I know about the frogs, not about licking them, but my girlfriend kissed a frog, and that's how I got here. I'm the prince. That's right.
Oh
What
dear.
happened there with the internet splitting? At least we got everybody back.
I was going to say the next reptile we're probably going to get is the bearded dragon. We get them here like naturally. They just turn up in the yard. But I've had friends who they reckon that they're great cockroaches. You just let a couple loose around the house during the day, and yeah, no need to spray for roaches or anything like that. They look after all of them.
The best,
Yeah,
best
I've got one for years. They're good, man. Definitely very easy to domesticate.
the best thing for ants and roaches and that kind of stuff in your garden, especially aquaponics or if you got kids or animals around, is boric acid. Boric acid is great for that. It doesn't hurt anything except for insects. So unless you're keeping tarantulas or scorpions, you're fine. But
What about dogs? I read boric acid was bad for dogs.
they
I
have to
haven't
eat a
looked into
lot of it. Yeah.
Oh,
So we used to use it in the pet store all the time, and no problems at all.
okay.
It's
Yeah,
one of
because
the.
my dad makes up a sugar trap for the ants, and he uses that with the
Oh
boric.
yeah. Yeah, it's great. So what nutrients are you guys using? What do you like for pH up and pH down, and what are the different supplements that you guys use down there?
pH up just doesn't happen. We get the water coming out of the tap at over 8, so no need for that. Sorry, pH down. I mean, pH up is hydroxide. I use calcium hydroxide. I should be using more potassium and alternating the two, but I've just got so much. I got given a big bucket when I bought the system off Paul Van, so I'm still working through that, and I'll get some potassium hydroxide at some point. Other nutrients I'm using, it's probably a bit reckless, but I'm using the kelp powder for potassium. So it's got loads of other micronutrients. I don't know if there's going to be a stage where I end up overdosing on the micronutrients because I'm adding in too much. Testing is a little bit more expensive here in Australia than it is in the States. So that's we don't test for. I haven't tested yet for any deficiencies or toxic levels of elements in the system as of yet. Iron, we just use the DTP8. So I found a relatively cheap source now. So I've just been using that. Yeah, pretty straightforward. When we have had to bring the pH down, I've pretty much all used hydrochloric acid. But at the moment, I'm just using the water just straight from the tap after it's been, gassed off, of course. I'm just using that as a buffer itself, and I found that it generally gives me, if I pop in 200 to 300 litres, 300 litres, what's that? About 50 or 60 gallons. I pretty much it keeps the pH nice and steady for a couple of days. So, yeah, it's one good thing about having fairly high carbonates in the water.
Yeah, that's great. It makes it easier to dose. I know
Yeah.
we use a lot of potassium silicate. Helps a lot to get a little extra silica too, especially for crops that have mold problems.
I haven't really looked into silicate much, mainly because it was in the seaweed powder, from what I read. So I just didn't bother looking at it as an individual, which I know is probably a bit reckless if you want to be a purist, but. Yeah.
I love that though, because that's kind of my thing. I see, it's in there, and then I don't research it any. I don't mess with it. Okay, it's there. Yeah. So I like that. Somebody else says, yeah, they didn't necessarily,
Well,
know.
If I was going commercial, I suppose if I was a commercial, I mean, that'd be a different story. It'd be stupid not to look into it, but
right. Then you got a responsibility.
Yeah, but just for feeding, just for kicks and feeding the family and friends. Yeah, they can do it without a bit of silicate if they need it. Yeah.
And the fish didn't die.
Yeah, the fish are going.
The fish didn't die, so right. Isn't that the first rule of aquaponics? If the fish don't die, you're probably okay.
Probably. I love the probably bit.
Another great source is a rice husk biochar is really high in silica as well. Can be put in in like a nylon bag and put into your sump, depending on the size of your system.
Cool. I'm gonna have to. I didn't grab a pencil and pen. I'm gonna have to open something up and write
No
this down.
I would imagine that would come in powder form. You could probably even dose that in small amounts.
Cool.
Yeah, yeah, no, you can get that in quite a few different forms. So what other questions do you guys have for
Well,
Rob?
I got one I just came up with all of a sudden because we're always about ferments and lactobacillus. So, Rob, are you doing anything with ferments or lactobacillus?
In the system, no, but I do ferment.
Oh, you're not doing a dual root zone, though, are you? Are you?
No,
No, he does his
I'm
own
sorry I
thing.
got here late. So,
Yeah, no, it's all good. I haven't. Eventually, I'll give everything a crack. I always wanted to start out doing basically the pouches in a tray, flooding with a little bit of a clay ball reservoir just to keep the mozzies out and all that sort of thing, and algae down. But I just never got around to it. Space has just been an issue.
So
Okay.
I saw you do a lot of vermiculture on your channel. Do you
Yeah.
want to talk to people a little bit about that and what kind of worms you're raising and what you're
None at the moment. We're renovating, and about a year and a half ago, we thought we were going to start off straight away, and other things, family issues and health matters popped up. So I dismantled the worm farm and put them all out in the garden beds. So I suppose we still are farming, and all our garden beds are self-watering wicking beds. So they've all got a reservoir level down the bottom, wicks up. You guys will probably know, and you've got a nice organic, dense growing medium. I put all the compost worms out into the patch, and I top dress fairly heavily with manures, compost, and aged manures, compost, and mulch, and that keeps the compost worms ticking over. And we've also had we bought red wrigglers primarily, so we were told, but I know there's some blues in there as well. We've got them in the yard now, so whenever I put down a compost cage after the heating process is finished off and it's starting to age a bit, you pull out a handful and compost, and you're bound to get half a dozen to a dozen worms in there. So I really do like the idea of including them as a tea with aquaponics. It's just not something I've really done consciously. I've thrown mesh bags of castings in the sump tank when I first started out and that sort of thing, but I just never really kept up with it. So.
Yeah, a little bit in your media bed when you're first starting can be great for seeding your microbes, especially nitrifying bacteria. They're loaded in nitrifying bacteria, and it can be a great free source of seed colony.
Yeah, well, that's probably why I kicked off so well, because when we started off, everyone throws a handful of worms in. So I just did castings, worms a lot, just into each bed. So they freaking well exploded too. It was amazing how fast they kicked off in the system. It must be all the bacteria, I suppose.
Oh yeah. Yeah, and the more of those bacteria you can seed in the beginning, the better off your system will be. I know we often talk. I don't know if you guys there's a product called Mammoth P. I know they're trying to get it established in Australia if they haven't already, and it's a beneficial soil microbe that breaks down phosphorus, and it's used by cannabis growers and by vegetable growers, and it is 100% fish safe. And man, with just that, it gives you almost all the phosphorus you need out of your system just from the fish waste. It unlocks that other 15 to 20% that's locked up still, and does it completely organically, and it's fish safe.
So
and when we're talking about some safe stuff, I wanted to say something about just one last thing about DE. With when you're using aquaponics or even any kind of organic culture where you have live beneficial insects or worms, you can't use DE because DE will kill. The whole purpose is it scratches the skeleton and it dehydrate and die, and then the eggs hatch and it does the same thing to the babies. So DE is only good if you're not going to have beneficial bugs.
DE is actually fine for worms because they can actually use it as a grit to grind up their food.
Well, see, but you have to let
it doesn't damage them. It doesn't damage them on the outside, because once the DE comes into contact with water, it's basically disarmed.
Well,
yes and no.
Well, it's a fossil shell. It's a piece of sharp piece of material, and it scratches them is how it kills the bugs.
I'll tell you.
I would say. And the thing with worms, what I read, well, let me just address the worms, and then and see if brain wants to come back. But when my research on what it does with worms is if you mix your medium up with DE in it, it'll kill the worms. If you let the worms, if you address it, put it on the top and let the worms work it into the soil, I think is what you
any
were saying.
any research I've ever done when it comes to DE says that it's safe for worms to even top dress your worm bin with it to keep any kind of other insects out.
Yeah, top dress. That's what I'm saying. By top dressing, then you allow the worms to work it into the medium. If you were to stir it all up in the medium and then they were crawling through it, it would kill them. That's what I was trying to say. I mean, I'll look it up now that you said that, because I'll find the material that I
don't think even Tad Hussey, what was it, a couple of weeks ago, was talking about as soon as the diatomaceous earth comes into contact with water, it's basically no good as a mechanical insecticide anymore.
Well, so the other bit is, according to Susan Ann Wright, it does fuck all for any insects in large scale testing.
Dry. It does work for some insects, I can tell you for sure.
Yeah, I can tell you it works for spider mites myself. For sure.
It works for slugs really well, and that's about it.
It works if you can keep the area dry, which I mean, how many grows are trying to keep it completely dry?
It's the size of the thing, and the way it works on an insect is because their whole, if they even get a couple of slices on their abdomen, they lose a tremendous amount of water, and they're small.
They dehydrate.
Whereas a worm is a completely different thing. And it's also much larger. Even if it did slice up the
thoracic breathers, and that messes with the thoracic breathing system. Yeah.
That's exactly how it kills insects. That's right. And it's got to be really dry. It's true, like Brain said, it has to be dry. And basically you just dust it on top the surface of the soil. I don't know what Roger's saying may be true, that if it's mixed into the soil a lot, like a whole bunch of it, because you can buy bags of it, it's for use for pools and everything.
Yep.
No.
It's great for grit.
It's not use pool grade. That's toxic.
Well, pool grade is only toxic because it's a flour, or it's super light.
You have to get it in, yes. But let's just inform everybody correctly right now. No, you have to use food grade Codex diatomaceous earth. It actually says that. See, yep.
That's right. I wasn't saying pool stuff.
It's got to be food grade diatomaceous earth Codex. It's called diatomaceous earth food grade Codex. CODEX.
The difference between food grade and pool grade is pool grade can include lighter molecule, whereas the food grade is molecules above a certain weight, so it's not as much of a dust and a breathing hazard. That's the only difference. So you can actually use the lighter one. So pool grade will actually work better as an insecticide.
That's good to know. Thank you, sir.
You just have to be mindful.
But you're putting yourself at risk for your own respiratory system. If you inhale that stuff, it's not good for your respiratory system. So do not use. I don't care. I'll fight this one. Do not use commercial pool grade diatomaceous earth, or unless you want to, get ill. When you're old, you'll wish you hadn't.
Bob, you actually have a really cool formula for worm food, which is one of the cooler videos that I've taken away from you on your channel. Do you want to touch a little bit about that? Because I thought that was awesome.
Which one was that? The dry one?
Yeah, that you had like the different amounts.
I cop flat from that from worm growers all the time. They reckon it's overkill and all the rest. Basically, what it was a whole heap of stuff. I was cleaning out the pantry. And there's always that corner of the pantry you never go to, and there was stale oats and flours, and I think there was some rice in there and some other bits and pieces. And we just ground it up, and I used it as a dust over the top of the beds, and I think I sprayed it with water and molasses. And I just noticed I do my normal slushy, which is another thing most pro worm guys don't like me doing. But they were just smashing through that before they were even touching the green stuff. They just absolutely loved it, and I noticed a huge amount of cocoons around that area not long after feeding it, probably about 2 to 3 weeks after feeding it. So I just put, anecdotal of course, They just preferred that a lot better than the green stuff. So, and by the way, anyone watching who's seen my other green slushy clip, it's a lot of people reckon that it makes the bins very moist. I run a dry worm bin. I know a lot of people like to spray theirs and run water through it and all the rest. All my bins are dry, so the only moisture that comes in is in the form of the vegetables. So I end up with a dry, flaky layer on top, except for where I'm feeding. So, not that anyone's probably watching it give a rat's, but yeah, thought I'd just mention that.
Do you ever take your fish solids and put them in there as well?
No, because I had far too many garden beds here. I couldn't even make enough compost or afford to buy the fertilizer to go in them. They say, what is it, go big or go home? I went far too big, so I had to bugger off very quickly. All my solids from the radial flow, I was alternating them around specific beds in the patch that were nitrogen hungry. So that was pretty much where they were going. In the future, though, I'll be looking at doing a digester. So I was put off that idea to begin with. I misinterpreted something Paul Van said when he came around here one day. So now I've learned a little bit more about the digesters. I'm looking at getting another one of them in the system here. So yeah, and that'll be reintroduced back into the system rather than used external.
I personally think that doing offline remineralization gives you better, more controllable results than with the bioreactors. The bioreactors do work and they're great, but you have less control. And that's especially when we're growing higher dollar crops. We really want to have that higher level of control. And we've done a lot of work with that. And yeah.
Well, I'm only just touching on that now with Ryan Chatterson's course. I'm only just up to that one. I've been stalled on it for about a month now. 2 months now, actually. I haven't gone any further. Just other stuff keeps popping up. But yeah, that's the bit I'm looking at now and there, because I've seen a lot of stuff online, and no offense to everyone online, but there's so much yes and no and all the rest of it. It's hard to know what to listen to. So what Paul said was just, he's an amazing guy. His head's just full of knowledge. He'd come camp out the back and he'd be chatting for 3-4 hours, and I'd probably retain about 5% of what he actually went through. He's very analytical, very scientific, very detailed, and it was a bit too much for me to comprehend. So probably should have recorded it. Or sorry, the dog wants me to throw stuff.
That's all right. Last week, Frenchie's dog was vying for his attention as well. So.
She's addicted. She's addicted. She's a rescue dog, and the only way they gave her attention was to throw the ball for her repetitively all day. She needs one of those things where you pop the ball in and it shoots it out for her.
So, what other strange or exotic or maybe crops that you've seen that you've grown that other people haven't grown?
Water chestnuts to me just make, if you're in a warm climate and you like your the crunchy. I don't know if you've had Asian food. There's in a lot of Thai and Chinese. They go phenomenally well. They can become a weed in the system because all you need is the smallest corn not to be harvested, and they'll come up year after year. No more, Lizzie. The other one would have to be gingers. I've seen Crackey's hydroponic ginger clip a couple of times now. And once we get a bit of property, I'm actually going to look at running a hydroponic ginger dedicated commercial bed just to see how that'll go. There's a lot of the people I know around here, I've asked at a few different restaurants, they still buy their ginger from wholesalers, except for one that gets all their stuff grown by family members. So I'm thinking that might be a little niche market for us to break into once we get this new hoop house sorted out.
Have you, did I hear earlier that you do some saltwater aquaponics?
No.
No. Okay, sorry. Okay, I misunderstood something earlier.
No, I had high salt levels to help out some fish.
Oh, okay, that's where that came from. Okay, because I've got this dream of having a saltwater aquaponic system, and I want to grow pistachios.
Sweet.
Yeah, if it works, it'd be sweet. Yeah.
A boy can dream.
Yeah.
Well, it's an ebb and flow, basically. You know, they grow in a tidal basin. You know, they're a shrubbery, basically. They grow in a tidal basin. So it's an ebb and flow thing. If you can make an aquaponic, saltwater aquaponic, and it's in saltwater because they originally came of the Mediterranean, and now they're off the coast of California primarily for the United States, but they came from the Mediterranean originally. When I lived in Turkey as a child, you could go down to the docks and buy a whole bag, like a brown bag you'd put a beer can in, and for like a quarter, and get right fresh out of the Mediterranean tidal basins. So I've always had a passion for that. So I just wondered, you being down, well, you probably don't like down under, do you? Because you feel like you're on top of the world, and we're under, don't you?
It's almost saltwater down there. He's halfway. Roger, there's some places where there's halfway to saltwater in the world. Lakes where it's very hard. Some of the big
Brackish.
Yeah.
Malawi. Well, I live in an area where we've got an ocean, and then we've got brackish. No, I live near a lake where you can take a canal down the lake to brackish water, and then go from brackish water right to the ocean. So yeah,
my impression
of there, buddy. I live there.
It's pretty. My impression of Australia is that the water is real hard and real salty down there, right? Your water supply, Rob? Yeah or no?
No, it's all comes from the sky, just like the rest of the world.
Oh,
yeah. Water comes from the mountain peaks. It snows in the winter, and the water and the snow melts off the mountain and fills the rivers that run downhill and fill everything. That's how we get water. Is it comes off the. That's why global warming is such an issue. But we're not going sideways in the global warming, but
yeah, it doesn't snow where he is.
No, we're in the subtropics, so we've just our wet season's almost over. We had a foot of rain last week almost, so over 2 or 3 days.
What's the hardness of your water? How many parts per million?
Out of the tap, I don't know. I haven't tested straight from the tap, but with the pH is coming out at roughly around about 8.3. But it depends on what they're treating the water for too. So,
yeah. You don't use the tap water. You use collected rainwater, or
no, it's all tap here.
Oh, you do?
Yeah. The houses there's lead paint on the gutters, lead paint on the roof. So once the house is renovated, that's something that's going to be addressed, and we're going to have proper water tanks put in, which will be used just for aquaponics.
Cool.
Now, is this a city, a government city type water, or a well?
Oh no, it's all we're on. There's 2 dams that feed Brisbane. There's Somerset Dam and Wivenhoe.
Okay, yeah, okay. And city water.
So it's all dam. I think we can put bores in our backyard still. Oh, there's so many different bloody regulations. A lot of the people I know who do have bores around this area, it is very hard water. So yeah, I'm
lucky. I've got a well at 7 to 7.2, about 200 parts per million. So I got a great well.
Okay. Yeah.
Oh yeah, it's perfect. I mean, you can't stop stuff from growing here. You can't. If you kill everything, something else will grow there like crazy, like tomorrow in 2 weeks.
So I saw you had a cool video on growing pineapples in aquaponics. So how long does it take to get a pineapple?
That wasn't me. No. That will be soon. I've got a couple of heads drying out in the kitchen, and I've got a couple of suckers, and I've got a mutant 2 or 3-headed sucker that I've.
Why don't you tell us how to do that, Rob?
What, plant a pineapple?
Yeah. Well, so like you say, you're suckers and like almost like you cloning a pineapple or something.
Well, they're a bromeliad. So you get your fruit. You break your fruit off, and then through the base of the bromeliad, you'll get little babies shoot out. So those guys there, you can either leave on and you'll get a smaller pineapple the next year, or you can break them off and plant them in the ground. There's conjecture online as to which grows the biggest pineapple. So I'm not going into that debate. But generally, you just get your pineapple, grab the top, twist it off. Actually, I'll go grab one back in the tick.
Sure.
That's what I was going for. I'm cloning pineapples out here. I was like, let me see.
All right, it's going to be pina colada time.
Yeah, because pineapple's good. I think we all can agree pineapple's pretty good. There we go.
This is one I harvested a couple of weeks back. It's just been sitting on the bench, and that's pretty much all the section that came out of the pineapple there. And just get a decent angle.
Yeah, yeah.
So you just twist it out. People cut it off and all sorts of
Just
malarkey.
wrench
Yeah,
it out.
twist it out. And then down the bottom here, all you need to do is just pull these off like an artichoke. And I should have brought the other one out so I didn't have to do it all on this one. So I've already done the other one.
Demonstration live.
Hey, yeah. A+.
This is awesome.
And then this was supposed to be a video for my channel, folks. But I won't go
We
too
stole
far.
it.
Yeah.
We hijacked it.
It's all good. I don't know if you can make them out, but there's little root nodes down in there, and that's where the roots come from. So basically, I like to let mine dry out so they don't rot in the wet soil. And you just
Like a
plant
potato.
that.
Like a potato.
Yep, I'd probably pull out another 4 or 5 rows of these just to give me a little bit of depth into the soil, but I'll save that for the clip. And then just pop it in the soil and away she goes. So that's pretty much all it. They don't have a really massive root system though. So, I mean, these things can grow anywhere up to about, probably about 5 to 6 foot wide once they get going. So they're not something that's probably good for aquaponics in that respect. They might be good in a bucket off to the side. But yeah, they basically will fall over. So yeah, that's the other thing with a media bed. They may not be too stable. There you go.
Start a SIPS pineapple.
Man,
Colonial pineapple. Thank you very much, my friend. That was excellent.
Excellent. Thank you.
Only on Growing with Fishes podcast you get to learn how to clone a pineapple. I'm telling you.
Thanks to Rob.
Well, did you know you can also get
Oh,
some,
Rob's.
also
Yeah,
have
why don't
seed?
you tell us? Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead. I'm sorry. Go ahead, Rob.
Some pineapple will also have seed. The eyes, where the little flowers come out as they're developing, all those little eyes are a little flower, a little purple flower on ours. And so GMO, crossbreeding, conspiracy crap. But originally they used to have little seeds behind them, little black seeds. If you Google or YouTube search growing pineapple seeds, a few will come up. It can be done, but this way is just so much faster.
Well,
like
you don't think that's
18
just-
months to 2 year turnaround for us.
You don't think that's just common bolting like other vegetables when it shoots up the shoots and has seeds? Like,
Well, no, it's a bromeliad. It's the only
It's a
edible
brom- yeah.
bromeliad. Yeah, it's totally different type of plant.
okay, so it doesn't bolt then. Okay,
No,
so
no.
different.
Actually,
Okay. It sounds
not-
like bolting what you're talking about though, where shoots come up and produce seeds. That's how you
Oh.
get seeds for.
No, on the outside. So on your pineapple itself, you've got the little sections. Out of those little sections on the fruit itself, you'll have a little flower come out of that. That's what happens when they're really small on the bush. I could probably,
Okay. Oh, okay. You're talking. I mean, okay.
if I knew how to use Hangout, I could show you. But yeah, they have a little purple. Owls have a little purple flower. Dad's had a blue flower. But behind them, if they get pollinated, legend says you'll end up with a seed behind that section. So
Legend. Yeah, I like legend. Yeah, that's pretty good. Legend has it.
So on that note, what kind of what varieties of greens do you grow there in the tropics and warmer weather? It'd be great for people to know they're trying to grow warmer weather here in the States.
yep. Can I just have a 5 second, guys?
Sure.
I just,
Yeah. Go ahead.
Well, he already said water chestnut, so that's cool. That makes me interested because I'm in Carolina, so it's humid and tropical as hell. Pretty much here. Especially towards the closer to the ocean you get. But so that was kind of interesting to find out that he likes that. And now pineapples, I wasn't sure that we'd be able to grow them here, but I'm kind of interested in that. That was neat.
my grandparents grew them down in Sydney, but then again they were on Collaroy Plateau, so they didn't get the frost. But they grew them down in Sydney, which is classed as subtropical, but it's more warm temperate.
So do you feel like you can't grow in an area where you get frost? You can't grow pineapple?
Oh, pineapple can't.
No,
do
they're
frost,
tropical.
no.
They're tropical.
No, but even in the there's not a dormant time of the year where there could
Nope.
be. No.
It's a bromeliad.
Okay.
Once it burns, it burns. Yeah.
So that you could maybe do it in a greenhouse then, because you would be able to keep the greenhouse,
Yeah.
warm enough and wet enough.
I think
right?
Robert Bigelow, he's growing them in his greenhouse.
Yeah, so maybe I could try. I bet you they bring what kind of bug and pests, extra pests and bugs would a pineapple bring though, being a sweet fruit?
Nothing. They're bromeliad. Nothing really touches them.
Really?
Nothing. Yeah.
Yep.
Well, so that sounds like the perfect thing to
They're more
grow.
a danger. They're more a danger to you than you are to them, mate. These guys are spiky buggers, and you get some of them. They've got like a little sawtooth on the leaves as well. So
yeah, you cut yourself. In other words.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's like growing an agave in your grow bed, which would also be about as unpleasant.
yeah. Cactus. Yeah, I was just thinking cactus, and you say agave. Yeah, so, which is like a like a saw-shaped cactus, isn't it?
Yep. So what type of greens and what varieties of greens are you growing there in the warmer climate?
Right at the moment, I've got bok choy, wombok, I got some Okinawan spinach that are struggling because of the magpie moth. Just trying to think what's in the beds. Oh, Brazilian spinach. The Brazilian spinach just loves this climate. So does the Okinawan spinach. Warrigal greens do all right. They're a bit hit and miss, I found, in the aquaponics. Like in the soil, they've turned into a weed in the backyard. But aquaponics, I've had a few issues with them. I had really good success with the perpetual chard, perpetual spinach. It just last year I had was it last year or the year before? I had a massive plant. We just harvested kilo upon kilo green from that. Sweet potatoes are a good one if you like them. Trying to think. Oh, Malabar spinach. The climbing Malabar spinach. It just went ballistic last season. Mites ended up getting that. But they're our main ones. Like I could live off the Warrigal greens, the Okinawan spinach. I really love. It's got this really nice, unique flavour. It's almost like a cross between carrot and lettuce. So I really love that one. And wombok, I could eat wombok every day if we could keep the grasshoppers and the cabbage butterflies off them. But lettuce, we've had a couple of varieties go really well for us. One is called rabbit ear lettuce. It's a warm climate. It's a cos, or what do you guys call it, romaine family.
Romaine works here too.
And the other one is a coral lettuce. It's just something Mum and Dad grew in their garden for about 4 or 5 years, and it just continually self-sowed. And I ended up, once I got some seed here, I just kept selecting the last large plant that did well to go to seed, and I just tried to select a variety the strain that would go to seed the slowest in our temperatures.
Oh yeah.
Even in winter, it just bolts. Yeah, because I mean, our winter days can get down to 20s. Like we might have a week. Oh, sorry, that's centigrade.
No worries.
Yep,
that's okay. 20. Yeah.
Centigrade. You do real temperatures.
Some of us do here. Yes.
Some of us, yeah. So it gets down to the low.
It's like
20s.
67 or 68 degrees for all you people out there.
Yeah, 68. Thank you, Phone. So very rarely, like, I mean, we have 2 or 3 mornings. Oh, actually, I'll be generous. We'll have like 7 to 10 mornings where it gets below freezing every winter for 2 or 3 hours. So we really don't have a winter. So
that's kind of like, it sounds like you got a lot of what you grow is what we can grow here where I live, and I've got a hydroponic greenhouse, and I'm trying to go into aquaponics, but I'm all by myself and life's a bitch. But so you don't get nearly as much as you want to get done in a time frame you'd like to get it done in. But it sounds like you grow, so anything that you say you could grow, it sounds like I could grow. And since I have a greenhouse, I think I could grow the pineapple because I could keep it warmer, at least to the tolerant level in the winter. Because I've got
sounds like a challenge.
Yeah.
No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah. Well, that's
two of you should have a grow off.
Now I can go to the store and buy a pineapple and clone it, and we'll see. We'll see.
He's trying to tell you he wants to throw down and have a grow off. He's challenging you.
No, I'm not having a grow off against anybody. I just think that what Rob's growing in his land. Where do you live, by the way? I missed you at the beginning. Where do you live?
Ipswich, southeast Queensland, Australia. Our city's a bit of a joke.
Queensland.
We're
Okay.
a bit of a
Right.
bogan city, apparently, or a bit
Yeah,
of a redneck city.
I
Yeah.
was pretty certain it was Australia. You know,
Yeah.
I was pretty certain. But
Just a little bit of pointer with the pineapple. What they're doing here in Australia is they're coring the center out. The pineapple growers are coring the center out of the head, so you can't grow them. That's another. I don't know if it's an urban legend or not, but it's something they do over here because it takes the heart out. This bit here that starts the roots off. So I've never seen one. What they do mainly is they just chop the top off because it's easy to pack without the head. So just thought I mentioned that.
Awesome.
Excellent.
Do you guys have sweet sop or sugar sop? I'm trying to remember the name.
Sour salt.
Anona.
Anuna is the Spanish name for the sweet sop, and then the sour sop. I think you guys know what is sour sop.
Both are Muricata and
Okay. So you mean custard apple?
Yeah, custard apple or
yeah, that one.
And the sour sop. Yeah, custard. We've got friends who've got custard apples locally. I don't have any here. Sour sop we were told to get because it was another new miracle fruit that was going to cure us of everything. But we never bothered getting one. We've pretty much the only fruit trees we have here on our place are three different types of bananas, mulberry tree, strawberry guava that I still haven't killed, figs, and
figs.
lime tree, citrus. Yeah.
Figs, another superfood.
yeah, those guavas can be finicky, eh?
Oh, ours. When we bought ours, intending to put it in the ground when we renovated, and it just has been in a root pouch ever since. Like it's surviving, and the fruit are forming, but yeah, every now and then I forget to water it, and the fruit drop off. Strange how that happens, but yeah.
Have you tried doing any trees in the aquaponics at all?
Yeah, mulberry. The mulberry absolutely flew out of the gate. I just did cuttings. I use my aquaponics for a lot of cuttings, generating cuttings, just to keep them happy. And one took off particularly well, and that's the one that I'm just got in a small little, I guess, 7-gallon root pouch at the moment. Just biding its time to go in over the new chicken pen. So
Cool. So you're growing your fruit trees with your chickens?
yeah, the mulberry will be in there. I don't know if I'm going to have it in the ground yet, or whether I'm going to have it in a. I might. I've got a couple of barrels I've taken the bottom off, and I might use that as a guard and grow it raised out of the ground, but let the roots go down into the ground. Just because I've seen them dig up trees so quickly, they're buggers, and I don't want if I wire it off, then it creates somewhere for rodents to inhabit. So I'd just rather just have it, something easy to manage.
Cool.
Rodents bring eastern browns. I'm a bit venomous snake phobic. Pythons I'm fine with, but the venomous ones not real fond of.
You guys have possums and stuff too, eh? Or some other possum-like little creature that comes in and steals your stuff, right?
Yeah, we got nice ones, unlike you guys. Ours are we get the little ringtail possums. They're a little brown variety. So they're pretty much all what have had a bit of a nibble on our mangoes. Oh yeah, we've got a mango tree. Keep forgetting about that one.
Yeah, good.
The possums really aren't a huge issue for us. We used to have brush-tail possums, the big ones with they were grey with a black tail tip. Used to get them a fair bit here, but I think the last one was roadkill and ended up in the compost bin out the back here. So I like to recycle everything. But those guys, when they're in, they introduced the brush-tail possums to New Zealand for the fur trade, and they went feral, and they eat birds and eggs and all sorts of stuff over there. But over here, they pretty much will just stick to fruit. So I've been told. So
mine comes up and eats leftover cat food. We got a big old giant possum.
you got some ugly suckers over there.
I tell you what, but they play. It's funny too. If you run up on them, they play possum. They just lay down. But my one night my pit bull was walking outside, and he was always real like stuck with me, and all of a sudden he kind of got weird and ran over there and started barking, and there was a possum, and this is the first time I ever heard a possum like actually snarl back. And
Hiss
even snarl back.
Yeah,
at
they
you.
hiss. I was fixing to say.
Yeah, it's like between a cat and a dog being nasty as hell. Or your old lady. I said that. Yeah, send all complaints to steve@hardtimes.com. Okay. So, anyway. Sorry, I had to go on a possum. Yeah, I got a big ass possum.
You know what else is crazy about the possums is they're immune to most snake venoms. They have a gland that makes them immune to a lot of toxins and poisons. That's why they can eat like trash in the city all the time, even stuff that is even a little. They can even tolerate a little bit of antifreeze and stuff that other animals can't. So
They're
their
really smart.
livers are hardcore. Yeah,
Very smart. You got prehensile tail. Amazing animals.
So how are we doing in chat? We got any more questions for Rob?
I'd really like you to comment, Rob, about people starting small. About the word you used. You said heroic. Somebody does a heroic setup. I love that. That one's burned into my brain. That you can say that across the board for almost 90% of human endeavors.
It's the testosterone factor.
I like that too. I enjoyed that you said that too. I thought that's what another thing, I try to teach. Learn to plant, learn your plants, start a smaller system that you can control. I was off to the side in another part of my office at the time, and I really did like you bringing that up. Thanks, Mr. Green Jeans, for reminding me that's a really good idea to start with a system you can control.
Well, that's
learn how to run it.
Question. I'd say that next to how many fish can I have in a system, that would be the next most common email I get or PM is my fish are dying. What's wrong? And I've got like a copy and paste now. How many fish? What size tank? What size flow rate is your pump? How big is your biofilter? How big is your grow bed? How big is because 9 times out of 10. They've seen someone say, "Oh, you can throw 100 fish in." I've said this before, but you can throw 100 fish in an IBC, and away you go.
Your knowledge and skill has got to grow before the technology, before the need for the bigger technology. So you have to understand things before you sink the bucks into some technology that you don't understand.
Well, Bianca was getting the shits with me because I was talking about growing with fish for like 2 years, and she said, "When are you going to pull the trigger? When are you actually going to do this?" It took me 2 years because I had no idea about fish. I still don't know enough, I don't think, about fish. And yeah, she got the shits with me and made me buy a couple of IBCs and force my hand.
So you're saying you can take 100 small fingerlings and throw them in an IBC, and that's where that's too many.
Oh yeah, no, go for it. I suggest you put a couple of 102-pound fish in there, mate. Start off with that. There you go.
Why? That's a waste of money. It sounds like to me.
It's the quickest way to make fish emulsion that
I know. In case anyone was wondering if that was sarcasm or not.
The other one is if you got deficiencies, it means you need to feed your fish more. Well, no, it might be a nitrogen toxicity, and or you might have crashed the pH by overfeeding them, and that's your problem.
I don't get that one much.
Or what do you mean you have to add other things other than fish food? That's another.
But you look at all the videos, and I mean, I'm not guilty of this, but all they say is you need fish food. I think I've been smart enough not to say all you need is just fish food, but look at what I grew just using fish. I just call BS every time. But someone getting into it doesn't realize you need at the base level you need some sort of buffer and you need some sort of iron at a base level. I mean, calcium can't hurt.
And on the amount of fish, I think what I've learned for the last year or so being with the panel is that what people don't understand, and I've come to learn, is that, and what we were just joking about, is that it actually takes a lot less fish than you would think it takes. To be straight honest, for you people that didn't know where the hell we were going with that, but that's I like Marty goes, "Oh, I got like 12 fish," and he's growing this, it's like. Yeah, so I mean, it doesn't. Yeah, you do. Yeah, I thought I was going to buy this big. We can start this big giant reservoir and get fish, but I want to raise fish too. I want to eat fish, and and then distribute to different systems. So I was thinking about starting a little bigger because I already had a hydroponics farm. So I felt like I could handle I'll just keep building, and I have ability to build new hoop houses and stuff like that to house different grows with so I thought buying a lot of fish might be prudent, but then that's just a whole lot of fish when you first start out. The more fish you can kill when you're starting out. So then I like the idea of just go down to the fish store and buy 12 goldfish, and if you really want to start, there you go,
Well, I started mine off on 10 goldfish, and it cycled on 10 goldfish before I just had a basic chop and flip jobby going, and then I popped them, stupid thing, I popped the goldfish into the 1,000-litre tank, into the IBC, then had to try and fish out these bloody small fish when I put the jade perch in because I didn't want two species together. But Mum and Dad, they've been running their system without any fish for it's well over 18 months. And Mum just goes out every day and puts a dessert spoon of fish food in. And she's just running straight off that. I must say she's never had a pH issue, and I haven't seen any iron deficiencies in the water yet either. But then again, it's not being, if there's whatever iron's in the fish food isn't being taken out by the fish assimilating it. So
it's like
green type of organic hydroponics.
Yeah.
Very I can agree with that. I agree with that. Or it's like instead of buying organic hydroponic concentrate, you've got it right there, and then you cycle it through your system. Although it's an aquaponics based hydroponic system. That's pretty cool. Yeah.
It's like turning a green crop in on the field. It's like eliminating the animal. Instead of feeding the green crop to the animal and putting the manure on the field, you're just growing the green crop and turning it directly in. That's what she's doing. She's just eliminating the fish.
Yeah.
It's awesome.
No offense to my mum if she watches this, because she does watch my clips, because I'll link this to the channel. But I sort of didn't trust them with fish for a little while there. So it's a bit far to drive. It's a bit far to drive if something goes pear-shaped at 10 o'clock at night.
Right.
Cool, because she made a discovery, though.
Pardon? Sorry?
I said it's cool because she made it a discovery. She discovered that you don't need fish. You can feed it directly.
Well, that's the safest. When people ask about cycling systems, and they're saying, like, I reckon Ponics is great, and one day I'd like to have a proper large Ponics system going. But when people ask for cycling, they're talking about, which clear ammonia do I put in, and do I need goldfish and all the rest of it. Just start off with the fish food, the amount of fish food you're going to feed your fingerlings. It may take a little bit longer for it to break down and release into the water than, putting just straight urine or ammonia in there. But you're going to get into a routine of feeding the fish and checking the system every day, plus putting the measured amount needed in for the bacteria. So that's whenever someone asks about cycling, that's, pretty much what I recommend to do anyway. I don't know if others do that else. I'm not saying that's the right way or the only way. It's just what I recommend.
No, it is.
Yeah, just get a couple of cases of beer, invite your friends over, and tell them all to use the system. So, ammonium chloride is actually really good too if you're looking for an off the shelf.
Well, that's what the commercial guys use that I've seen. They start up systems straight with that. Plus, then again, they also ship in growing bacteria to help seed as well. So from labs. Do you guys get that a lot over there? I suppose there would be guys growing commercial bacteria for sale, wouldn't they?
Oh yeah, we have lots of different companies and all different kinds and combos of bacteria, and
Yeah.
All different kinds of isolated bacteria for all different kinds of things, for both pest control and for nutrients.
Yeah. I know when I
Cannabis
first started,
industry stuff. Like, I mean, basically what we were talking about before the show, you know, the stuff that's especially made to target for the cannabis industry.
yeah. Because I know when I first started out, I got suckered in by a well-known aquaponic company here, and I bought a bottle of water that spent 10 days in the post to get here. That was supposedly going to be used to seed my system. So I was told by them, assured by the guy in the shop that I bought it from, that it would work. And then I just 10 days in the Australian summer in the back of a post truck. Yeah, I don't think there was much bacteria left in there by the time I got it.
No, that water was probably safe to drink at that point.
Yeah, very expensive. $15 for 200 mils, I think it was.
Oh man, when I used to work at Aquaponic source, we used to have we used to sell little sponges, and we had those in our uh, we had a couple different bigger, healthier display systems, and we had all kinds of wonderful microbes and stuff. We used to sell those live in water, and we used to overnight them to make
Yeah.
sure they get there, and that worked really well.
Yeah.
One of the things I noticed going to the hydro store was, I started my growing in the cannabis arena. Before that, I had killed cactus, and so I was dependent because when I started, I was back with my back injured, and I was on a lot of opiates, so I couldn't think. So I trusted going to the hydro store. And what I learned after about a year and a half of going to the hydro store, God bless them, they're wonderful people. However, in the cannabis world, it seemed like the only people who were manning the aisles at the hydro store were people who couldn't make it growing. And they would just sell, like you'd ask a question, they'd sell you the next bottle of stuff. You'd ask a question, they'd sell you the next bottle of stuff. And after it took me a while because I'm not too quick on the uptake sometimes, but I learned that you had to actually do research, go to ag schools, go to places, like Steve's classes and whatever to learn the real deal rather than somebody who had, 2 grows or 3 grows before it all failed. And then they wound up getting a job at the hydro store.
Well, I don't think people like that get in my area. They don't get jobs at the hydro store because guys that own the hydro stores are growers usually, that want to be able to buy cheap equipment.
Do they have hydro stores in Australia, or are they?
Yeah, that's a good question for Rob.
Do they have like a normal grow store?
You don't.
Oh, your mic's muted there.
That
buddy.
helps.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah, no, I used to frequent them years ago myself. Yeah. I started out growing like many people for recreational purposes.
Right.
And then I got into food when I realized I needed to eat as well as moving out of home.
Me too.
But of course, I did inhale, but I don't grow anymore. Any police watching?
Allegedly.
Allegedly. Remember, ended all sentences with allegedly.
So yeah, there's loads of hydro stores, and of course they're going to tell you, there's they're growing tomatoes in every shop and all the rest of it, and there's a love-hate relationship between them and the police, but things are getting a little bit easier now. So
I've run a giant forum, and the members cannot buy off of eBay. eBay Australia will not allow any nutrients or for sure cannabis grow supplies or anything to be sold. So I'm always trying to help guys get stuff.
I'm sure Aqua Gardening have got a hydro. Well,
I need some links. Can you post a couple links of places that I could pass on to my Australian members in our forum that they could get grow supplies?
Oh, there are tons of hydro stores. I don't want to mention. I don't want to plug anyone in particular, but there's links on my videos down below that will take you to a large hydroponic supplier.
Right.
So
fair enough.
They also do ponds and aquaponics as well. So
right. No worries. I'll check that out. But I do. I do. They always say, and I've got people from Australia all the time. I can't get this. I can't get that. I can't get. I
Oh,
can't.
they might be talking about. There might be some things
Like
specifically.
grow lamps, for instance.
Oh, grow lamps? No, I've got 2 under the house. I'm a
Yeah,
hoarder.
but can you buy them on eBay though?
Yeah.
I mean,
Oh, you should be able to. I can't see why not.
I
You
could.
My excuse was I always had a couple of tubes of veggies because I was under the impression that if the police ever raided me, I would say, "But I'm growing food. You cannot."
Right.
My ability to grow food, which I learned later was a load of crap, and they could just take it all.
I used to use Dutch leach tray to grow lettuce like that.
But those, all those lights, all those lights came from stores. There's no issues whatsoever. You can Google, look on eBay.
That's weird.
There was another point I think I was trying to make, but I missed it.
I had an Australian grower come to one of my classes last year, actually, and he was telling me that there's parts of Australia where they're putting parts per million testing meters in the sewer systems, and they're using that in order to find people's hydro grows because they're dumping their nutrients down the drain, and then they're ending up having to pay for water to clean up. So that was just some of the crazier stuff I've heard of for any.
Government. My wife works for the EPA, or a version thereof, and that may be they may have confused that with trying to get the big guys, not little growers, but they're trying to, because I mean the waterways are just being screwed up by people throwing everything in there. So I think that may have been twisted from something along those lines.
Nitrogen and phosphorus.
Or somebody who got caught up, was growing in the wrong neighborhood or something.
Oh yeah, there's I don't know, but that just doesn't. I mean, when I was doing it, there was like every helicopter that went overhead was an infrared, like looking for lights, like, you know, paranoia. I don't know why, but yeah, they're not.
I remember those days.
It never happened. I don't think they've, to my knowledge, limited knowledge. There was never anyone caught by an infrared light in a helicopter. So
the alleged
plant nutrients are no different than multiple vitamins. It's the same contents in multiple vitamins as in plant nutrients. So
yeah, but it's all heavily regulated in island countries because of a runoff and because of microbials. They're mainly looking for microbials.
Oh, microbials, maybe.
That's the biggest thing they're looking for. It's like in Jamaica, you pretty much it's really hard to get stuff registered there unless you know someone.
Well, see, microbials cause shit to grow crazy somewhere else because it washes down into the water basin, and now you got shit going crazy because of the microbials that were washed out of the drain. That's why they're freaking out about that. Yeah,
Yep, because Australia's been so screwed up from all the introduction stuff. So, all right, why don't you tell people how to find you and the content you got coming up? I know we have some links below. I know you have a bunch of different things that you support and ways for you.
Well, I'm pretty much all just trying to cut everything back and just focus on YouTube. Try not to get on Facebook because once you get on there, it's a downward spiral. I've got Aquaponically, I'm working on a series because I've just answering the same questions over and over again. I'm working on a series. I've already done the first one. What is aquaponics? I'm not trying to be a guru or anything like that, just trying to basically explain stuff. And the next in the series is going to be basic aquaponic setups, because that's another question I see a lot. What's the best sort of aquaponic system to build? So I'm just trying to do a whole heap of clips along those lines, just for people first starting out in aquaponics. I'm not trying to tread on Murray Hellam's toes or anyone who does courses. Then we're getting into, I'll go to start looking at the plant nutrient side of things a little bit more, but that'll be probably towards the end of the year. Mainly because I need to learn a lot of this stuff again. I did do a course years ago, but I've just forgotten so much. So that's what I'm doing aquaponically wise on the YouTube channel. But other than that, I'm just gonna, pretty much I'll just keep chipping away at that. I don't have any huge plans. We're trying to get the house renovated this year, so at some point I can actually do small workshops here, just for 4 or 5 people, however many the council allow us to park on the property,
cool.
and just to aquaponics will be one of the focuses, but mainly just backyard farming, how to grow protein and veggies in your own yard to try and become more self-reliant and, you know, responsible for your own existence, which is pretty much what I'm trying to be. So, yeah, that's about it.
So you raise pigs or poultry? You raise hogs or poultry? Is that what you're saying?
No, we've only got a 600-meter block, mate. We've got
well, you said protein, so I was going, what kind of protein?
Fish.
Oh, fish. Okay.
Fish, eggs. Yeah, just to give you, some people get confused and think we're on a huge, massive block. Our block is 0.06 of an acre, or where are we? It's 0.16 of an acre, or 7,300 square foot. That's our property size here. So we are on a smallish block.
1.6.
Wow. Yeah. No. Point 0.16. He's on 7,000 square feet.
0.16. Okay.
Yeah, we're on a pretty small block. So just to give you some idea for our chickens, by law we can only have 3 chickens on our property.
Oh yeah. That's enough.
So yeah, but we can have quail. We can have as many as we want, but chickens we can only have 3. So little loophole there. But once we get the house renovated, we're going to do that. And I also want to pull out the gardens and start again. The wicking beds have got roots all through them because of a design fault when I first made them and all the rest of it. So, yeah, hopefully a lot of that will be coming up on the YouTube channel. And the chicken pen is still in pieces in the backyard ready for me to put together. So,
one at a time.
Yeah, they love giving me, over on Patreon, they love, you know, jabbing me in the ribs every time we have a hangout and ask me when the chicken pen's up. So, being built for the last 8 months now, I think.
Yeah, why don't you tell people a little bit about your Patreon? I know you do a lot of content there first.
Yeah, Patreon. Patreon really surprised me how well it's done. I had people ask me if they could help us out by throwing us a couple of bucks here and there. So I started up Patreon after a couple of people hounded me. And I pretty much will like to do unique content just for those folks who actually take the time out of their day to support us with a couple of bucks a month. I was posting a lot of videos there pretty much every day just for the Patreon folks, but I've sort of cut back a little bit. I'm speaking to people through the Hangout, and they suggested that what I'm doing at the moment is a couple of small clips, and then for those guys, releasing them once a week as a vlog. For everyone else on YouTube, they're happy with that. Yeah, but it's just basically somewhere for me to share slightly unique content with other people so they get a bit of value and they feel like I'm not trying to rip them off and cyber beg for their dollars. So I'm not really into that sort of thing. So I don't like doing the hard sell. But if you join today, I'll send you a set of steak knives.
Awesome. I love
You'll do what?
He'll supply
Send you a set of steak knives.
Steak knives.
Is it those big Crocodile Dundee knives that he was shaving with?
The real knife. You mean the real knife?
This is life.
This is a knife.
I got a real knife like that. Yeah. Yeah. No, Patreon's great, but I feel a bit bad about it because I know that some people consider it cyber begging and that, so that's why I'm trying to do a couple of different unique clips just for those folks over there. And they always end up telling me that I'm being stupid, but yeah.
Hey, if you're providing they want good information and they pay a couple bucks for it, there's nothing wrong with that.
Well, see, that's the other thing. Like when people join up to Patreon, all they got to do, I know I can be a bit slack at times, but the whole idea is they've got my ear. Like the first thing I try to check in the morning is Patreon. If they've got a question, I'll help them out. Give me $1 a month. I don't give a crap. I'm still there to help them. So they've taken their time out to, you know, scratch my back. I'll scratch theirs. So that's one thing that Patreon members get, I suppose, that most people don't get. Because I've got a couple of hundred emails about answering YouTube comments I haven't gotten to yet. So, yeah, it's I suppose they've got my ear. And we do the hangout for the 3rd tier patrons where we hang out for it's supposed to be once a month, but at the moment it's about 2 to 3 times. Oh, sorry. About every 2nd or 3rd week, we're having a hangout there and we just chat. We can talk anything about politics, gun control, aquaponics, gardening. It's a bit of a mixed bag as whatever goes on there. Not as focused as this hangout, I'll put it that way. So
Well, I noticed you said you're staying off Facebook, and I think that's probably a good idea. Because the one thing I've noticed about Facebook, the only thing people don't seem to be concerned about is actually saving face. They will say some dumbass shit. And, at least on YouTube, you can ignore it.
Well,
Or
no,
your Patreon, you're getting somebody there.
the aquaponic forums are just as bad sometimes. Some of the different boards can be pretty ridiculous, but you'll notice the people that scream the loudest on the boards generally don't have a business or anything else to do, which is why they're posting all day. So
I see them all as a tool. I started seeing Facebook as a tool where I could find information for myself and give other people information, but I've noticed it's become a little bit too grubby and political and all the rest of it that I really don't give a rat's about. I've got my own beliefs and all the rest of it, and I'll stick with that. And I'm happy to take other people's opinions and whatnot. But it started, I've seen to a degree, because these people friend me as well, I've seen it move in like from the forums to the Facebook to all the rest. And I think it's just getting ridiculous.
Oh, yeah.
So, I've and the forums are great. There's some real gems. Like I've got to plug Backyard Aquaponics because without them, I'd still have an octopus out the backyard. I was on another forum and they told me I needed a dedicated hose coming from the fish tank, not even a soil's lifting outlet to run to each bed. And no one ever corrected the guy who told me that as a newbie, but as soon as I mentioned something on Backyard Aquaponics, they all just laughed at me, nicely of course, and suggested I try using a slow and a single outlet and then break off that to every bed. And yeah, so those guys over there, they went out of their way to help us a bit, so I figured, and there's some wombats on there like there is everywhere else, but they generally have a really good content. So
you could possibly pick up some new followers if you came and joined my forum, ilovegrowingmarijuana.com, where Brain Grow and a couple of most of the panelists are members. But you could share some of your aquaponics and your links to your.
I'd love to say yes, but I'm trying to cut it back just to YouTube and Patreon at the moment. I'm stay-at-home dad, and people think I do nothing all day, but I've still got to look after. We don't iron. We don't iron because I don't believe in it. Waste of electricity. But I've still got to do the clothes and the lawn and the food and the vacuuming and the dog and the daughter and all the rest of it. And getting online, like after I look after the questions in the morning, I don't even have enough time to do the aquaponics course I'm supposed to be doing. So yeah, no offense. But,
I know. I thought it would pick you up maybe a couple extra customers because, like I said, we've got a lot of people from Australia that are always freaking out about finding stuff.
Well,
and there you are that know where you can find it,
You got a place to push them. You go over to Rob Bob's channel and check out all the cool stuff.
Yeah, I'm not really.
He's got links to the stores and stuff over there in his.
I can maybe do a thing. I might be able to do a thing like that.
Yeah, Roger.
I'm not really into it for the views. Like I've had people tell me I'm trying to get famous and all the rest of it. How long did it take me to get on here, Steve? Like I'm not really in it for the ego or the notoriety.
I've been trying to get him on for a good year now.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's a farmer. He's not PewDiePie.
Right.
I was waiting for the beard to go long enough. I was trying to beat Steve.
Well, I let mine go when I was in Jamaica. It was a lot more impressive before that trip. Well, you know how it is in the tropics. When a beard's too long, it gets kind of unruly.
Yeah, a little bit naughty.
You just get tired of it. Yeah.
Alrighty. Well, we'll let you go, and I really appreciate you having you on, and you're welcome anytime. And thanks a lot.
Not a problem. I think I shall be back.
Awesome.
Enjoyed it.
Thanks for coming, Rob.
Thanks for joining with us. Really appreciate your input.
Yep. Thank you.
Thank you
again.
Thanks.
Cheers, all.
Take care. What's up? We got some other people. Oh, I wanted a quick shout out. Josh had to leave earlier, but big quick shout out to Josh at Dutch Blooms. We will be doing another organic cannabis. The Science of Organic Regenerative Cannabis Conference. This time will be in Humboldt. 1 second, I'll give you the exact location. In Redway, California. in Humboldt County. It will be March 16th through 18th. And I believe there is actually a 2 days beforehand where Elaine Ingram is doing a 2 day, unless that's changed, I got to double check, but I'm pretty sure Elaine Ingram is doing a 2 day intensive microbial course before that. So if you're looking to check out a really cool source of information, definitely check that out. And Rob, you're welcome to stay and hang out if you want
Yeah.
throughout the rest of the show, or if you need to get going, feel free to run.
I'll hang on a little bit. My daughter will yell at me when it's time to go. So
Okay. So how have you been, Fish Ganja guy? We haven't had you on in a little while.
I've been good, man. Not too much is going on in my neck of the woods. Only notable thing right now is in my veg, I'm dealing with some root aphids. Got some soil and didn't do my nematode treatment because I was a little broke at the time on the new seedlings that I started, and lo and behold, the one time I didn't treat, they showed up. So I just did a metarhizium fungus tea recently, and also redosed some nematodes on everything the other day. So the numbers are dwindling off, but I just wish it would go a little quicker. But if I want to keep it on the cleaner tip of the spectrum, I gotta just be patient. You know how it goes. Do you guys have any suggestions beyond what I've been doing?
For root aphids, the only thing you can really do, you could do a neem drench if it's in soil, and that sometimes works, but you need to have the plant early on in veg. If you're going to flip it right away, it's not really a good option. The other option is just to let the nematodes work. That's what's going to work the best and what's going to get rid of all of them. Any drench, you're not guaranteed that you're getting them all.
Yeah.
Plus, they're aquaponic safe, so you can use them in soil or AP.
Well, everything I'm doing is in soil right now, and yeah, none of these are going to be flipped anytime soon. But the other thing is, also, I don't want to go buy any neem right now because cash is a little tight. So I'm going on the route that I've already got stuff for. One cool thing though is it's the first bug I've actually seen ladybugs eat. Normally, I just see them dying in my garden and mating, but this is the first time I've actually seen ladybugs go to work. So that's actually one thing I've seen that they've been good for. I just see them hanging out in the soil and just diving, bobbing onto them.
Well, that's good at least.
Mm-hmm.
It's something I hadn't tried. I also know that lacewing larvae will eat them and burrow around a little bit, but not too much. But I've heard of that also working.
Yeah, no, this is the first time I've actually seen my ladybugs laying eggs too, and they're just laying them right outside the pots. So it's actually kind of interesting to see the natural predation take place.
That's cool. What
Yep.
what strains are
Even
you growing at the moment?
even cooler when all the aphids are gone. Fuckheads. Um, let's see. In flower in a separate tent where there are no root aphids. Knock on wood. I've got Geist Grow OG, which is a 100% indica four-way OG cross. I've got a banana OG cross I'm testing for a breeder. I've got Cannon Beach Cookies is looking really good. I've got one from Andromeda Genetics. It's killing it. And I've got 3 Durban Poison females that I'm hunting right now. And then next round coming up is what I'm popping out the seeds for. It's some more of that banana OG cross. I've got Cherry Head from a buddy of mine, which is cherry pie crossed with headband. And then there's one from Route 6.4 Gardens, another buddy of mine. It's, what the hell is it? Called Desert Rose is the name he picked. It's AFPAC crossed with Zanji, which is Zeta Sage and Tangi, which is his breeding male, I believe. But everything's looking healthy. They're just pissed off because they have root aphids in their cups. But I mean, they're still powering through it. So is what it is. I just gotta be vigilant.
That was an
Good for them.
excellent rundown of all the genetics and everything. Thank you very much there.
Doesn't it suck how much slower soil grows?
Dude, it's incredible how much slower the veg is. I didn't even realize until I saw the difference.
It's fucking painful.
Dude, it's like watching paint dry.
Oh yeah,
It's
dude. In
so bad.
aquaponics, it's like I can come back in 6 hours and oh, it grew 3 inches, or 2 inches, and in soil, it's like oh, I think I got half an inch today. I got 2 inches today, maybe the whole day. It just grows so slow.
Painful. So yeah, as soon as I can get some property and get an aquaponic setup going again, I am all over it.
Nice. I
But
know
yeah, go ahead.
Alien was just moving to your area somewhere in Oregon.
Elian Gonzalez, I thought they sent him back to Cuba.
No, well that one they did, but the guy from Facebook, for those of you that know, he's one of the moderators for a
I don't
bunch
know.
of
I'm
the
not on
Facebook
Facebook
groups.
anymore. But
Yeah,
cool.
What's
Well, that's all
face?
that's going on up here.
awesome. What about you, EC? We haven't had you on the show in a little while. What have you been up to in your grow?
Just harvested out some white lotus from Bodhi Seeds, which is Chrome's the white crossed to snow lotus, as well as some of his blue snow, which is DJ Short's blueberry indica to snow lotus, and then some pretty wicked as well from North Star Genetics, which is Chem D to Gooey Breeders Purple Mayhem, and just working on selecting a new male from the selection I made out of Trey Stardog across to my keeper, Pretty Wicked, and going through a bunch of seeds of that now. And once I have that done, I'll probably hit those to all my clone onlys and like elites and other seed selections and go through those and have fun with that. But just nothing much right now, just hanging out. But that's about it. How about you guys?
What about you, Brain Grow? What have you been up to in your grow and your extractions?
Well, like I was talking about before the show, I actually ran a batch of hash before the show got done, probably about an hour and a half before, and got me something to eat and stuff. But it's pretty crazy because this strain that I'm running, which is the Ninja Fruit, by Ninja from Ocean Grown, when I run the hash, I get blue to lavender trichome heads, and I'm basically doing the way Frenchie does in his video on YouTube, which is pretty interesting because after doing that and realizing that on your first run, you don't have to give it very much of an agitation at all to get a very nice yield. I'm starting to cringe when I see people running their material for 5-10 minutes at a time. I'm like, oh my goodness, just give it a little bit of agitation for the first minute maybe. And what I'm using is it's interesting because when I see most of the hash videos, they're using that little washing machine and it spins the water both ways, right? So, and it has a little hose that comes off of it and just drains all the water. You don't get all of the plant material that goes into the 220 bag. You just get some plant material comes out, but it doesn't get all of it as so much as if you were like actually using the 220 to agitate the material, get the trichome heads to fall off that way. I used a little 1.5 gallon bucket because I have some 1 gallon bags. I used a 1.5 gallon bucket and just threw some PVC fittings and stuff like that on there and a piece of hose. And it works pretty good. Like I was saying, today I probably used maybe half an ounce of material and I probably used about maybe half an ounce of material as opposed to before I used volume wise, it was probably about twice as much, and the yield looks like it really came out about the same, which is pretty crazy. Looks like when it dries, it should come out to about the same. And other than that, in my grow, I've got the Ninja Fruit 3 that should be, I just cruised past week 9, so we're starting week 10 already and flowering for that. And it's doing pretty awesome. Those buds are huge. We're finally starting to get some I know I said this last week, finally getting some pistol heads dying off, but there's maybe a few buds, and it's weird because it seems like it's ripening up instead of from the top down. The buds from the bottom are kind of starting to ripen up before the ones on top. So that's kind of weird, but it's looking like it's going to be a pretty awesome harvest. I got my few plants vegging. I actually got a hold of Roger from True Aquaponics, and it looks like he's going to be sending me the line of the, what is it, the 3-week nutrient pack. He's going to send me a 6-week dose. So I was thinking with my grow, I'm going to veg it out like normal, and then once we start flowering, maybe a week before flowering, I'm going to start using that nutrient pack and see how that goes for the flowering process. Let's see. I haven't been doing much rosin lately, especially because of the hash.
Yeah. So are you washing your bubble or?
What do you mean?
So after you have your bubble in your bag, are you taking a sprayer and then going through and trying to break off the trike stalks and everything, or are you just separating and using it or drying it right away?
Like when it's in the bag, what I've been using is a little bottle with just like a little squirt head where you can squeeze it, you know? So I'll rinse it, you know, in the bag and do it that way. I'm not exactly sure if that's what you're talking about. But what I'm using for agitation is I'm just using a spoon, like I'm just using a wooden spoon, and I'll stir it around for about, I don't know, on the first round, I'm literally doing for a minute or less. And if you watch Frenchy Canoli's video on YouTube, the way he does it is, okay, with the washing machines, it spins it one way and then it spins the other, and it does that continuously. With his first wash, it was probably less than 30 seconds. It spun one way and then it spun the other way. He cuts the machine off and he says, "That's it. That's my first wash." And then he runs that into the bags, and you know it goes on from there. And so from seeing that, I was just like, my mind was blown. I was like, what the heck? That's insane, because everybody else you see doing it runs it for, like I said, over 5 minutes for sure on their first run. When I was doing it, you know, I was using a little spoon on the drill, trying to get the most agitation I could, you know, and I
You're
feel like
trying
that
to,
was
yeah, you're just
absolutely
trying
the
to,
wrong way to go about it, you know,
you're just
because
trying
the
to
way
put,
Do you have?
Frenchie explains it is you're using the water current to stroke the heads off of the trichome stalks,
Yeah, if you're using
and
one of those small.
what's
go
Yeah,
ahead.
I was gonna say if you're using one of those small 5-gallon washers, if you want to slow down the speed of the wash too for like your first wash, you can always use like a fan speed controller and find out like the right setting for it, and you can actually control the like how fast you want the water to move within the machine itself, which is good if you have like really dry material and don't want it to turn to dust like right away, which can be annoying when you know, even if you have a pump sprayer washing it in the back and be a pain if it's really just like turned to dust in a sense.
right. And whenever he does his video, he's actually using dry trim. So what he does is he starts with a layer on the bottom of ice, and then throws the trim in, which is dry, and then throws the ice on top. And then from there, he lets it set for a little while to let the plant material cool down. And then he adds the water and lets the material rehydrate. The rehydration phase is kind of is how he describes that. And I wish I had had the pleasure of being able to take his hash class, because that sounds pretty awesome, you know. But all I can speak on is what I've seen on YouTube from his videos, you know.
Yeah,
And
the biggest
go
thing
ahead.
is that so he has that, then he drains it in through the screens, but the screens are up, not in the water, they're out of the water, and then he takes a spray hose and he's basically rinses them, and there's a technique that you can use to basically knead or work the contamination out of the heads. You just kind of work it. You make a foam and you blast the foam through the side, and that's kind of the way that you rinse or clean your trike heads. That's how you get that super blonde or clear or bright yellow
Yeah,
It's because
push
you're
the green through.
Yep, and just not over agitating and not trying to, totally destroy the plant material because that's how you end up with the green stuff.
Right, exactly. That's one of the points that he really drove home to me, especially, is that you're not trying to just pulverize that plant material. You want your plant materials to stay intact because then you're going to end up with chlorophyll in your material, in your hash.
Yeah, Brain, you were mentioning that you're following stuff on Frenchie's videos. I can't remember if you were on when we had Frenchie on, but he announced on this show that he was going to be releasing a direct to the camera class, if you will, as if you were at that class. Steve, correct me if I'm wrong. Is it 420 he's releasing that?
Yeah, on
Did
April
he announce?
20th. Yep. Yep. Yeah, it's on
Yeah,
420.
that
That's a
would be pretty
question I
awesome
have.
to attend.
Are we going to have a 420 show or a Thursday night show?
I don't know, maybe both. It depends on what's going on that week, and I still don't know what my April schedule is yet for which event I'm going to be at. So,
Well, after all, 420 is mine and Brain Grow's 1 year anniversary on the show. So.
I will.
No,
I
I'm
will
pretty
say
sure
we're
I
gonna.
was on, or were we on the same episode?
Yep, last year at 420, I
Oh,
thought it was you
sweet.
and me. Yep.
I don't
What was
know.
the,
I totally can't remember, to be honest.
I am going to find a way, I think, to be at the Du Grosch Cup. Trying real hard to be out there for that, so that'll be fun. And that's April 15th. I know we have I'm teaching the medicinal herb class at Ouroboros on March 10th and 11th, and there's a commercial aquaponics class March 22nd through 25th with an add-on day. 1 second. Yes, March 22nd through 25th with a 1 day cannabis add-on on the 26th, and again that will be the add-on day will be more commercially cannabis geared. You're going to get a lot of the information, or most of the information, or a large chunk of it anyway, as far as aquaponic operations out of the commercial class. So we'll have just 1 day of geared towards just cannabis as well, if you so choose to take that. Yeah, just wanted to touch on that. As far as upcoming events, lots of events happening this month. That's for sure, and next month.
And Dennis Peron's
Oh yes. Dennis Peron's memorial is on the evening of Sunday the 11th. It's 5 to 10 p.m. I believe. There's information in it below if you're looking for the link, as well as for the regenerative cannabis conference. There's also a link for that as well in the description, along with most of the panelists' YouTubes.
Yeah, actually, something else I've been, interestingly enough, I got a couple of ducks and some chicks yesterday, and I was taking some videos today of the ducks swimming around in my aquaponic system. So I'm probably gonna upload that to my Instagram exclusively if anybody wants to check that out. And they're actually eating dried cannabis leaves off of the surface of the water.
ducks quack me up.
Well, other than that, let's see. With my mycology project that's been going on, I have one jar that's just about fully colonized. By tomorrow, it probably will be. So we'll be going through about a week of letting the rest of the mycelium consolidate the substrate, and then I'll be going to fruiting. And that pretty much goes exclusively to my Instagram channel as well, because YouTube's not very friendly about that stuff, I have found out. So, yeah, my Instagram is where most of the good stuff is, other than if you're talking about my aquaponics growing. I post most of that to ilovegrowingmarijuana.com. Some pictures I post up to the Facebook Aquaponic Cannabis Growers group.
Awesome.
I also got a moringa tree that's growing in my kitchen system. It got pretty long before I put a light just kind of beaming directly on it. So it's got a really long stem, and it's got some foliage that finally started growing at the top. This one, pretty cool little experiment to start.
Awesome. Yeah, moringa grows really well in aquaponics. I grew a bunch when I was down in Jamaica. And clone it real easy too. Pretty hard from seed though.
Awesome.
Kind of a bitch to grow from seed.
Is that the same one that Filipinos call molungai or something like that?
Is that
Mo-
in
Yeah,
Cali
Filipinos love it.
they call it drumstick tree, I think. In
yeah,
Cali.
the fruit looks like that, right?
As
Yeah,
a triangular pod, you break it open, there's white seeds inside.
uh-huh. I
Yeah,
think it's the
kind of
same.
sweet. Yeah.
Yeah, I actually planted the pod straight down into the media bed, and it just took off from there. I didn't really have to do anything at all to it. Just chunked it in the media bed, and that was that.
Well, apparently the way to grow it is to just not give a shit and just stick the pod in and not try to baby it, not try to plant the seeds individual, not try to give it an easy time. Just jam the thing in your grow bed, it'll grow. Apparently.
Thrives on neglect.
Well, awesome.
Neglect.
What have you been up to, Mr. Green Jeans?
Oh, not much. I'm sorry, my video's not working. I had some cool plants to hang around behind, but uh, yeah, it's the same old thing. But yeah, lots of the family members have got them using medicine thanks to Tommy's wonderful recipe. And we got a, I built a press. I got the parts came in the mail the other day and stuck that together. I was messing around with that. Already got some wonderful results out of that, even if I
So where'd you
have
get
no
that
idea.
from?
I just bought a 10-ton, uh, an El Cheapo with it has a gauge though, and and then I also bought a separate set of plates and a PID controller, with heat, with nails and stuff like that, and just got all the, just bought the parts separately and threw it together. It works beautifully. As far as I can tell, it's really nice. But I've got to get some other things. I don't even have any parchment paper. I don't have any bags. I might want to get those because I probably have a good amount to mess around with, and a
Those
couple
little
friends.
bags, they run pretty expensive from what I have
Right now.
looked for.
What would
If
you
anybody has a
recommend?
good link, then definitely share that.
Yeah, I have no idea. I haven't even gotten into it. What do you have? What have you tried?
I haven't been using bags, man. I've just been pressing straight rosin. I'll press it with a little hash puck press,
Uh-huh.
and then I'll do like 1.5 grams. Seems to get a really good yield. That's probably about the most that you can fit in that little hash puck press that I have. But I stick it in there and press it down into a little puck, and then throw that in the rosin press, and it just gives a
I think
real
with
good
mine,
yield on the first press.
I realized you've got to give it time to heat it up. You've got to just kind of like put it down and let it heat first. Like the heat's more important than the pressure. You got this 10-ton press and you're like, wow, I could really crank it up. But that's not really the deal. The deal is to heat it up. So, and I was only putting it on like 180 or a low temperature, 170, which I think is the bottom. You should probably start experimenting at probably 200 or whatever, right? To start with. What do you think, Brian?
Yeah, I think I do mine. It's I can't remember. I do mine at 110 Celsius, which is I think like 215, 220 Fahrenheit, if I'm not mistaken. I'm probably wrong about that, but that's where I do mine.
I think I was trying too low temperatures, but a couple of them came out really nice, like really waxy, and they make wonderful hand lotion. It's amazing.
Podmaster was saying that when he does it at a really low temperature and does like really extended period presses, which I would have to see that because that sounds kind of out there. But if he has success with it,
Well,
right
check.
on.
Of course, I always make seeds, so I accidentally left a seed in there, and I think that ruins it because there's a lot of fat in there. But it's pretty interesting. Yeah, that's a take home. Don't leave a seed in there accidentally. I mean,
The fats and the lipids will help you preserve terpenes in your rosin.
I'm sure it's good. Medicinally, it's probably great, but it's really obvious that uh, it's the different than the rest of the stuff, and it's there's a lot of it. Like one seed is quite a bit of whatever it is. Whatever comes out of that seed is to a plug that I think was probably around 1.5 grams. I'm guessing. I don't know. I didn't measure it. It was only my third try or whatever. So there was a seed in there, and it it definitely changed the texture of everything a lot. And it was fully mixed in because I was cranking it down. I've got the 10-ton press. I don't think you need that much pressure. And I wasn't using 10 tons. I was using, but maybe 2 or 3 tons. That's probably excessive. I think that time and
Is it
temperature.
pneumatic?
What? Yeah, I mean, I just got the press, I mean, I was just like messing around with everything, so I was like cranking it
No,
down.
like is it pneumatic? Like is it a air
No,
pressure
no,
press, or is it like a
hydraulic,
manual press, hydraulic or something like that?
hydraulic shop press. Yeah, hydraulic shop press. Yep, with a
Like a
gauge
bottle
on.
jack kind of thing?
Like well, it's a bench top. It's not the floor standing one like a lot of people have used for like the 20-ton size. For there's like you buy it at Harbor Freight. This one is more of like a bench top model, and the hydraulic part is on the side, and you crank the handle sideways. But I mean, it's like an H frame that it's about 40. I think it's 42 inches tall by 20 inches wide or something like that.
It's
And
a
it's an
bench top bearing press is what you bought.
exactly. It's meant
Bearing
for
press.
bearing presses. Exactly. That's exactly right. And this one has a gauge on it, which is pretty important because if you're pressing against nothing, which you are doing with the plates, I mean, you're just pressing against, itself. You definitely want to be careful not to exceed and blow out so the good thing about having a gauge is just not to go too high. But I don't even think you need the 3 tons. I think for the little tiny amount that I was using, the small size of the puck, because it's all about square inches. You know what I mean? You could talk all about the pressure you've got with the tonnage.
PSI is the name of the game.
Right. So it's all about the size of the puck, right? So whatever size I managed to make the puck and get it to squeeze. That's why I think you should heat and slowly press. I think the temptation with the 10-ton is just to go, wow, I love tools too.
Yeah, that's what
But
my girlfriend said. It's all about the square inches, not the pressure.
yeah, it's totally, it's very tempting, especially with the 10 tons, so you're like pulling on the thing. But I think that I figured it out by the third or the fourth run that it's more important the time and the heat, like to go slower, let the plates heat up the puck, the plug, and spend time going down, like crank it down a little bit, then stop, then crank it down a little bit, then stop. I think you have to develop this whole skill.
Well, brother, you're preaching to the choir here. I'm a major advocate of low and slow. Low temperature, go at it slow. You spent a damn long time getting that material, or you spent a good lot of your money.
That's how we're making the oil. We're making your oil recipe. I've already got the aunt on it. She's totally on it. She loves it. She's made it a couple times. We're about to buy the cooker? You use a sous vide cooker.
Yeah. Roger found the best sous vide. It's like $100 or something on QVC. Bang.
What's it called? What's the brand?
On QVC.com. It's like a channel thing or something like that.
Yeah. All you got to do
let Roger say it. Roger knows.
All you got to do is go to QVC.com and look up sous vide, which is SOUSVIDE.
Yep, I know it. Yeah, excellent. Thank you.
When you do that, you'll see one with like a handle on the top. And actually, it was David Hogmaster that found this first. But this is what I bought too. I bought the same one.
Nice.
And it clips to, like, instead of buying a cooker, you can do that, but it's going to cost you $200 to $300. And this one, you can just take a giant saucepan and it clips to the side, which any of them do. They all clip to the side of the reservoir. I mean, but if you buy a reservoir, I think Rubbermaid makes one. It's going to cost you $100-something for the reservoir. It's going to cost you $100-something for the sous vide, and it has to be the right sous vide for it to fit in the reservoir. So what David found was, go to QVC.com. They've got two of them. One of them's got like a handle. It looks like you could pick it up and carry it around the yard with you, and a big old dial with a digital dial on it, and it's perfect. It's like $198. You get that, and then you just get you a big saucepan, like like a couple gallon saucepan or whatever.
More like a gravy pot, not a saucepan. A little taller. You want a little bit more volume. Is like maybe like
Well, I'm talking about a spaghetti sauce pot, like you make for the whole family.
Yeah.
Which is like 8 quarts.
I was just thinking of taking a little fish tank and going in there and bending the little thing on a big heater. Put a little.
I don't know how that hot water would deal with the silicone. I would feel safer with a pot rather than heating up my silicone.
And keep in mind also,
only 118 degrees, though, right?
I don't know what silicone does with glass in a fish tank. I just know a pot ain't gonna break on me.
The sous vide recirculates the water. It recirculates the water. It sucks it in. There's an impeller at the bottom of it, so it's heating it up. It's coming in there. It's heating it up, and it's shooting water and causing water circulation.
Yeah, circulation is as important as the heat control. Right.
That's the whole point.
Yeah. I get it.
Well, I'll tell you what, you can go about all the different ways, but Tommy had a bunch of old homemade ways, but you can't really tell with this digital model. You can't get a less expensive option for $100. You've got a digital, and it's guaranteed to be within an nth of the degree. And that's what making the oil is all about, is having that perfect temperature for days. That consistent temperature for days. The water doesn't dissipate that badly. You may have to add some water here and there over 5 days. I would think common sense would dictate you're going to have to add some water.
What is the infusion temperature again?
118.
118, right? That's what I remember. That's low. I don't know. That's not hot.
But to keep it at 118 for 5 days,
yeah,
is the key. So you buy this device for $100. You fill up the water. Now that's one thing I wanted to ask Tommy. Do you put the water over top of the jars? Like do you have the jars submerged in the water, or do you keep the tops of the jars above the top? Without.
Should be submerged, right? Jars should be full all the way, and it's submerged completely.
Submerged.
They don't have to be submerged as long as the bottom half is they're fine.
Okay, so basically, you got some leeway, so it's not that critical at that point. But what happens is this sous vide apparatus that they sell on QVC for $100. In fact, you can get it for 5 payments of $20 or something like that. And it does the job. It keeps your temperature is going to be for 5 days. It's going to be 118 or 120 degrees, whatever it is. It's going to be that. It's going to stay that temperature. It's not. You can't count on that even in the oven, because the ovens won't go down that low. See, so that's where Tommy had a homemade sous vide thing he had, which was basically throwing a heating element in the bottom of a thing of water, But you can't control the temperature for sure as well with that method, although it works. With this, you want that exact temperature, because it's been determined that temperature is what brings out the exact type molecules and that are available to your body and infuse the coconut oil at that temperature. So that's why it was so important, and that we found that. I mean, you can go buy them on eBay or Amazon. You can go buy them all day long. All you need is a sous vide. That's it. You don't have to buy the one we're saying to buy. You can go buy the Rubbermaid deal where it's like a big plastic thing with measures. It's like a big giant measuring cup, rectangular measuring cup with a hole on one end and the top. and you stick the sous vide on the side of that, and then you cover the top. And even with the one we're doing, I think David put cellophane or something over the top of the pot. He does something to keep the heat in, to help, you know, and the moisture, because the moisture, the replacing the water would be more prevalent if you don't have a top on the pot of some sort. But you can't put a regular pot because the sous vide is clipped to the side of it. So you have to kind of fabricate a thing if you're using the pot method. But then Tommy might be able to, or somebody else might be able to elaborate on that. I'm not sure, because I haven't really even used mine yet. I bought everything, and now I've been waiting for I'm waiting to collect what I want to do. I'm kind of in the act of collecting the flour that I want to use and the trim that I want to use.
I got a question. Tommy, are you still there? Is he there? Hey, I want to know what would be the difference between the canola oil and the coconut oil, because obviously the coconut oil absorbs a lot more THC, and the canola oil doesn't. So it seems to me like, and I've done this before, like you can run a second run of of infusion. You can put more fresh canola oil in, and it'll infuse again another batch that seems to be pretty potent. You know what I mean?
We do that with this method too. We do that. We cheese. I'm not Tommy, but
even with the coconut oil,
the first 5 days, and then we redo it for 3 more days with fresh oil with the coconut oil.
Huh. Yeah, because it seems like there's more to be infused, even when you let it go for quite a few days. Yeah.
Yeah. So you do 5 days first, then you strain it to a cheesecloth and get all the oil out. Then you put the matter back in the jar, fill it back up with coconut oil again, do it another 3 days at 118 degrees.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's two methods. Tommy's method is two separate cooking. Well, 3. You got the decarboxylation for the 1 hour at the beginning.
Yeah.
And then it has to cool down completely before you put it in the sous vide bath, and then you cook it for 5 days at 118. Then you let it you strain that oil out. Then you put it back in with fresh coconut oil in the same matter that you were using, and do it for another 3 days, and then you're finished.
Yeah.
I can't address the canola oil thing. I just know Tommy explained it in the coconut oil.
I'm pretty sure it doesn't absorb to the level of potency that the coconut oil is. Coconut oil's got a lot more. It's much more like butter. You know what I mean? Canola oil's pretty good for a vegetable oil like that, but I think it might only be like
coconut.
Canola oil is not a saturated fat.
There you go.
Coconut oil behaves like a saturated fat outside the body, so it's excellent for pulling what we want, but it doesn't behave like one in the body.
Yeah. The canola oil is definitely absorbing, and if you eat half teaspoon or whatever like that, you're not exactly going to get baked, but you're going to be, it's good for medium dosing. It's good for controlled dosing, so I'm wondering how much more you can infuse with it. Like, can you go back a second, a third time? Am I wasting it by throwing it away? It seems to get, even the second time around, it seems to still absorb a lot. When I'm basically filling the jar completely with the product, and then, putting as much, putting the oil to the top too. So, and that, so obviously it's not as much oil as could fit in the jar in a way. Is that like too much? Maybe you should only fill the jar halfway and fill the oil, or not.
No.
It's better to do it twice.
What I have found, any solvent, and so if you consider your oil as a solvent, max you're going to deal with any extraction is carrying 10% of whatever you're after within the liquid. An oil is not going to pick up as much as some other solvents like a butane or an ethanol, obviously.
Yeah,
So
no.
what I have found is I'll cover my cannabis. I'll do that first 5 days, strain it out. Then I do another 3 days with another full fill on it. And I have found that I get better utilization by doing those 2 washes, if you want to consider it a wash, or the 2 infusions.
Yeah.
Oil wash.
Much better than doing 1 infusion with twice the oil.
Yeah.
Well, of course,
Cool.
because you're not having as much matter if you don't have the organic matter in there, because you used half as much. That right there, to me, would say it's going to be weaker.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Canola oil is good for people who are not trying to get a buzz, who are people that like they're just strictly interested in the medicinal effect. But I've seen some of them, keep on taking more because it tastes really good. Tommy's recipe, it tastes fabulous. It smells beautiful. If you make it with fresh cannabis, it's amazing. And so people, they're dropping it in their wine or whatever at some party. I've seen it. And they're like, "Oh, this is nice. I'm not even getting high." They think they know. They think they're like, because you tell them, "Yeah, no, it's not that strong. It's just canola oil." Oh. And then they get really baked because they did a little bit too much. Because it can definitely hold a lot of THC, and if you decarboxylate it properly, via Tommy's way, it's quite potent. It's strong shit. even if it's canola oil, is my point. But I mean,
My only point is, as a solvent, if you're considering your oil as a solvent,
yeah,
best, bar none, is coconut oil. Second is butter.
I'm gonna try it.
And then after that, other oils work. However, if you like other oils, I would assert that you'd find a better utilization doing your extraction in a coconut oil and then cutting it with other oils.
Oh, that's a great idea.
Yeah, see, here's my coconut oil. There you
go. That's a great idea. Make a blend. Well, I was just thinking of making both kinds because at least one person was saying, "Oh, I want to try it in coconut oil." Somebody who was already like hip to it, because a lot of the people that I've given it to had never even tried it. A lot of willing new medicinal users out there. That's what's amazing. People, the social attitude is changing so fast.
Oh, Granny gets down with her medibles, I'll tell you.
Yep. And if not now, she will next week.
I would also think that naturally coconut oil tastes better than canola oil in the first place.
No, the canola oil is has no flavor at all.
That's what I mean, though. And I know that coconut oil doesn't have much flavor, but you're still coming from coconut. You would think it'd have an ability to taste better in the first place.
Really to me, canola oil tastes cleaner. It just tastes smooth.
And when you cook with it, it's really good. Like you put it in some banana bread or some recipe. The coconut oil is kind of strong. It has like a flavor to it. It's kind of like olive oil. Olive oil is good too. It's better than canola oil, I think. I've heard. But it also has a strong flavor to it. I've made some infused with olive oil, but so far we've only tried it as a topical, like on your skin and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Another thing about coconut oil is it behaves as the proper polar carrier. There's not just what you're infusing it into, but certain things you're after polar or non-polar. And butter and saturated fat like coconut oil achieve that polarness that you're looking for.
Yeah.
Unlike other oils.
I know.
And olive oil can take on, if you cook it too hot, which you wouldn't in this particular method, but olive oil can take on a nasty taste if it's cooked too hot or whatever. So, like I use coconut oil I mean, I use olive oil to cook with for sautéing stuff at low heat. I use grapeseed oil if I want it a little hotter. And if I'm going to kind of semi deep fry, which is about as much deep frying as I get, I use canola oil for that. So
Another benefit of the coconut oil is you will find that you have the longest shelf life with it.
Yeah, that's the other side of it.
That's particularly, you were mentioning an olive oil.
That's a
An
good
olive
point.
oil that you have done infusions into, introduce plant matter into,
right.
the ability to turn rancid is so quick. I mean, like damn skippy quick. So
That's a great
room
point.
temperatures and stuff, you're going to get the longest shelf life out of coconut oil. However, you're best off storing that in the fridge or in the freezer and just taking out pieces as you need it.
And, I think that was the most important thing to me that I took now that it came up, is that the shelf life is like semi forever with coconut oil as opposed to anything else, including butter, which won't have the same anywhere near the shelf life coconut oil will. So that's why, even more than all the fact that it's already an excellent oil for the human body anyway. And then you add the fact that when you do the infusion, what your product is safe for a lot longer period of time, and again, it can be used topically and ingested. So you can't. It's like the best
storage of product is going as it becomes, as prices go down, and more people start using medicinal and growing their own and things like that. Storage of the product is going to become a much more important issue, and storage of concentrated products is too, because a lot of people obviously now are making things into concentrates, which is really cool. But how to store those things, because I see every a 5-pounder at the end of every cul-de-sac in America, by the end of a couple more years. So we're going to have plenty of product, and we're going to have to figure out how to store it. So that's looking forward in the future. Cool techniques for storing product and storing concentrates.
Well, something else that I've been kind of thinking about when it comes to storage and just final products in general is that when it comes to oils, well, most of us are already hip to the rosin press thing. So some of us are already able to press out concentrates, just individually without having to go through the 5 to 8 day process with coconut oil. So something that you can also look into, if you have a rosin press or have a way to extract your material just pure, is the canola oil would also whip into a cream much more readily than what the coconut oil will, because especially once that coconut oil cools back down, it's going to solidify again. So making a cream where you can also add other essential oils and stuff like that, where basically all it takes is whipping up the oil, is probably going to be a little bit better of an idea for some people as well, because you can store that in a tube, and instead of having to dip your heavily contaminated fingers or a knife or utensil or whatever into a jar of oil, which is going to increase the rate at which it turns rancid, you can squeeze it out of a bottle or something like that onto your hand and just rub it in that way.
Yeah, if you're going to whip it, not to get too technical, but if you're going to whip it, exactly what you're saying, you're putting the oxygen in there, you're really forcing it into the thing, and that will increase rancidity. If you're going to go
but you can also heat it up as well and just kill off any kind of mold spores and things like that would be in it from the start. Bring it to a real light simmer or something like that for a short period of time, and then whip it up that way.
You would be better off using something like a simple ceric acid in with it as a preservative to prevent. I make topical.
Right, exactly. That's what I was saying. If you're talking about making a cream, you can add in other kinds of, antifungal, antibacterial, even essential oils, or like you're talking about stearic acid. If you've ever seen anybody that makes their own homemade hand creams, if you look through the ingredients list, you're going to find your essential oils. You're going to find all that good stuff. And then you're also going to see that stearic acid in there, like Tommy's talking about.
Ultimately safe. And if you're doing it to put it up, I haven't mentioned this on the show before. I'm so glad you're bringing it up. That little bit of stearic acid, I know everybody wants everything pure. But once again, if you went through all the trouble of growing it and curing it, and now you made your stuff, you might as well have it be good for you in 4 weeks, you know, since you spent 4 months getting there. A little bit of stearic acid is fine for you. It's brilliant for your preservation.
I just want to go on record as saying I don't know anyone who makes homemade hand creams. I don't know what you're talking about there, Brain.
Well, I live in the South, so there's a lot of that stuff that goes on around here. People growing their own herbs and turning that into hand creams and stuff like that, you know.
No. But Tommy, you were saying, so you're talking basically you'll be more of a hand cream once you add, like you said, you didn't want to get too technical, so I'll just say whip it, you know, and once after you have your oil, then you have another additive and you whip it, right? You're saying that has a shorter shelf life once you do that? Or
yes, if you were to just do that. So if you just did that, you're forcing the oxygen into the oil,
right.
and you put plant material in there, so your ability to go rancid is great. I mean, like, not a little bit. We're talking crazy greatly increased, and you can avoid that problem by like a 1% or something ridiculously small. It's a 0.5% or 1% of stearic acid as a preservative, and it's going to greatly extend your shelf life. It's not going to give you forever. It's not as if you were to whip nitrogen into it or something like that, or something inert. But for, you know, you're never going to make anything in too big a batch. I mean, golly, you're not making 55-gallon drums of this shit. But
where can you buy it? In small quantities.
Yes, the stearic. Yeah, it's you can
probably on Amazon.
Everywhere. Yeah, it's ubiquitous.
Yeah,
it's
most likely.
Ridiculously safe. It's unbelievably cheap. And you've spent so much time, treasure, and talent getting here. Put a little stearic acid in it, and really, you know, hedge your bet. Make sure you're getting good, consistent medicine over the entire time you're dipping into the tube.
And it still is topical and ingestible, even with the stearic acid.
I only do this. I don't know specific. Yes, the stearic acid is safe ingestible. But almost always when you're doing some topicals, you're adding a couple other things in there, like some shea butter, maybe a little bit of beeswax, because it makes it a better skin cream, and the women just go, ooh. And when you mix a couple of those things together, the stearic acid is going to be a good preservative. If I'm eating it internally, then I'm pretty much just keeping it in the fridge or the freezer, and I'm taking out, you know, a pint of it at a time to have it, you know, ready to work. I just haven't covered topicals here, and if you guys want me to at some point, I'm happy to do that. It's not a really big demand. I mean, the people that love their topicals, you can't pry it out of their cold dead fingers.
The coconut oil itself, the infused coconut oil itself,
personally, I would appreciate that. That would be pretty cool, Tommy, because
Yeah.
I mean, medicinally, topically is the best way to turn people onto cannabis, in my opinion.
Yes.
The coconut oil infusion method already does a great job topically. I mean, it's pretty damn good. And when you add the lecithin, it makes it even better. But now you're causing it to have a chance of going bad quicker. So you have to keep it refrigerated. Or add stearic acid. So basically, you're saying if you keep it refrigerated, you wouldn't have to add the stearic acid. But if you want to leave it laying around on the counter, you should have it for shelf life.
Always,
shelf life, you want
for my oils. I'm making them for medicinal clients, almost all of whom are already compromised. So I would rather make a short batch. It's only going to last a month. Keep it in the fridge, and I'm not asking that person's body to do anything extravagant.
Yeah, so you're not adding stearic acid.
Topicals, you're making very often topicals for people with arthritis, psoriasis, ongoing stuff. They want to buy their thing once a month or once every 3 months, and they want it to be able to hang out, and it's, They want that very consistent feeling and stuff. So you do some things to the coconut oil extract. You add shea butters and stuff to give it that sensual stuff. But adding all that stuff, yes, hedging your bet at that point with the cereal acid is where I use that.
Right. Okay. And then of course, as we're just to clarify one more time, once you start adding those shea butters and all, it's no longer edible.
Correct.
Right.
Yeah.
So you
Or
want it edible and topical in one jar. You don't add anything but the coconut oil, lecithin, and maybe some cereal acid if you want to leave it out.
Yeah. And you can use just the straight coconut oil. You rub it on your skin. It's going to be a happy thing. You can use that internally, in certain holes of your body and stuff. It all works fine. But yeah, for a topical that you want to have in your purse or, in the glove box kind of a thing, there's a couple other things you do to stabilize it and work on. Because, with the coconut oil, if it's a little bit warm, it's runny. If it's a little bit cold, you need a goddamn chisel to get it out of there.
Right.
It's not consumer friendly. When you get into
I like that
topical stuff, you need to address some of the consumer concerns. Yeah.
But I like that because when it's cold on the colder side and it gets solidified, actually for topical, again, probably not a good idea to stick your fingers in, but if it's your own oil, and you're going to be rubbing it on yourself, it's just like Vicks or something. You could literally take your fingers and dip in there and scrape off some and start rubbing it on yourself if it's cold. On the other hand, I used to give it to my wife. I would pour some into a teaspoon and then pour the teaspoon into her palm of her hand, and she could rub it on her foot that was all messed up, and it worked really good that way. So I kind of like the fact that if you want it to be runny, you can warm it up. I set it in by my propagation area by the heat mat or just underneath the T5s, and that's all you need, just a gentle heat. So it's not, but if it gets cold, it does. It's like it's like grease. It's like it looks like grease. It looks like grease, but
like a rock.
It's also
like it.
easier to measure it out into doses that way too, So I like it. I like the fact that it solidifies and is easily liquefied. I like that versatility.
Yeah.
Well, like if you're going to cook with it, like David likes to take and take and cook his eggs in it. So it could be hard, and you just take your knife and cut it like a piece of butter and throw it in the frying pan. On the other hand, like I said, if you want to rub it on your feet, it might be nice for it to be warm and runny, so you can just pour it in your hand or put it in a little bottle, just a little tiny squirt bottle that you can squirt a little bit on and rub it on. It really works great, though.
You might like this, Roger.
For any kind of chemotherapy patients, you don't want it cold because they have that sensitivity to temperature that's due to the side effects of the chemotherapy. So that's also good for them. What you're talking about, warming it up like that.
Is you take your coconut oil after you make it, and you just get these cheap ass ice cube trays that are made out of silicone, and you just pour your stuff in the ice cube trays, and then you let it solidify. I do it right in the freezer, and so I let it get really, really hard. Then I take the ice cube tray out of the freezer, and they're silicone ones, so they're very flexible.
Right.
Oh, sorry. Quiet. Oh, wow. So you take... sorry about that. So you take the ice cube trays out of the freezer, and then you just turn them upside down or just sideways, and you just spray it on the back of the ice cube tray with your hot water in your sprayer, and boop, 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 they'll all pop out. And then you can give somebody a freezer bag, with a bunch of ice cubes of cannabis in there. And so they can have that in their freezer, and they kind of get used to how much they're using, and they just take a cube or two out, along the way. Because like some people I get stuff too, I don't get to see them very often, so I have to kind of load them up on product. And that's a way that they can have their good preservation of their just pure medicine, take a couple out at a time, and be using kind of like Roger's talking. Then you can take that cube and let it come to room temperature, or put it in your hand and have a massage party.
Speaking
I was
of,
going to go and buy little half-cup jars, and
For some people, that's a bit much. But yeah, I've just found. I mean, I go to the 99-cent store. I get these little stupid things for what, 99
I don't
cents.
have a lot of freezer. That's a cool thing. I mean, because you could do it any way you want. I just don't have room for that. I got a very small refrigerator and freezer situation with a lot of food in it, and I don't have room for ice cube trays. But I do. I was just going. Well, see, I decided I'm going to make mine in such because I'm going to use different strains, right? And I'm just going to use very small jars, like a half a cup to a cup at the most of matter. And that's what I'm going to do, several different types at one time instead of one big like quart jar or something. Because, well, really, I don't have all that extra flour to be using on this oil. So what I'm doing is I've decided to tailor make it to my trim and all the little shake that fell off when I was putting the buds in the jars and stuff like that. And I'm going to have 3 or 4 different kinds. So I've already figured out it's not going to be much in each jar. So I'm going to go with little tiny jars like that. And then I'll have a jar of strawberry kush coconut oil, pineapple haze coconut oil, blue dream coconut oil, blueberry coconut oil, and on as I go down the line. And that way it doesn't take, because I'm like Mr. Greengy says, yeah, we still smoke flour, but it's also where I live too. See, if I lived in California, I'd have a lot more stash. I'd have a lot more meds to play with. But I live in an area where I have to have a very limited grow in order to not be on the radar, or they don't give a shit really, because it's just pop. And that's where the ever-changing.
Nobody pays for it.
Nobody's going to really bug you for growing 4 to 6 plants, but if you start growing 50 or 60 plants over there, they're going to start worrying about that. But so the thing is I only have enough to make it from grow to grow as it is with meds in the flower style. So I'm not pressing at all, because that just takes too much flour away. Now I realize you could then make oil out of it, but again, still, I'm not willing to risk my meds at this point.
I feel like rosin pressing increases the efficiency of the medicine that you're growing, because like the rosin has way more of an effect on you than that same amount of cannabis you used to press that rosin.
How is that?
I understand that, but when I run out of pot, when I run out of freaking pot and I don't have a harvest yet, I'm not going to like
Smoke them rosin chips, bro.
How good the resin is.
Smoke them rosin chips.
The reason the rosin chemically that's so exciting for you there, and you're speaking so highly of it, is at the low temperatures, like Mr. Green was talking, the low and slow press. You're having the natural fats and lipids in the plant, and you have the terpenes all good and fresh there. And just by that oozing, you're kind of capturing those terpenes in that goo. And that's what those waxes and lipids are really helping you do, where if you were to do an extraction, separate all these things, you lose all that stuff. So rosin is a brilliant product. I mean, if you're going to smoke something, I mean, I always advocate for eating it. That's my thing. And
I think it has almost as good medicinal.
You're not do better, I don't think, than rosin. Or some of Frenchie's hash is pretty damn skippy.
That's not the point. The point I'm making is that I still want to smoke a joint before my next harvest. And if I use it all pressed resin and making coconut oil, I won't have any pot left to smoke. And I'm not at the point where I don't want to smoke pot. See,
I think bubble hash. I have never tried French.
Yeah, I mean, to me, I haven't gotten to that point. Like I've been using the rosin press, and I've had a steady supply of the concentrate since I've gotten it. And I'll take maybe a dab every day. I don't even dab every day, to be honest.
So much better than the BHO.
I still prefer that full-bodied smoke. I still like the smoke. So a very small amount of what I have grown in this past harvest has even gone to rosin at all.
Well, that's what I'm saying. That's all I could do. So I'm not at the point where I'm comfortable taken and well, especially at this point, to invest in a nice rosin press for one thing, because I got so much other, so many other bills and other things that have to really, in my opinion, should come before a rosin press. That for one thing for me, and you know, and I understand that
Me
you
too.
get
I'm
a
so
lot more.
poor. I don't know why the hell I bought that thing. It was crazy. As a matter of fact, I didn't buy it. My aunt bought it. The aunt-in-law. And she's a nurse. She's going to retire next year. She's Filipino, and
That's cool. If you
she's
got
She
really
plenty,
excited
invested in
about getting.
herself, is what she did.
Yeah,
She's
yeah.
like,
she
I'm gonna
wants
need
to
that
get
medicine in
involved
about a year. So
in the medicine. Yeah, she grew a plant last year, and she got seduced by the plant. Mary Jane herself. Like what happened was I check it out, man. I was playing with her husband in garage band. We were rehearsing in there, and I was cleaning some weed, you know, and I probably threw some seeds out in the front, and they germinated in the front. And her husband, the bass player, Rusty, he digs them up and he takes them around to the backyard and he gives them to her, and she goes, "Oh, check it out! I think I'll plant these." And they kept them in the ground, and it was amazing because they all grew up. They turned out to be all females, which, if they're, you know, seeds that I threw out there, which I know they were exactly. As soon as I smelled the plant that she grew, I could even tell her what you know, which mother, which plant it came from. But I mean, it was pretty funny. Got seduced by Mary Jane. People that, as soon as you get somebody to grow a plant, man, they're immediately a fan. You know, they can't get away from that. I mean, you know, but these days, even the consumers, you know, even the older people, the big expanding new market is the medicinal thing. I'm worried about people that think that there's a huge recreational market out there. I think that I think that there is not a big recreational market out there. I think it's only chance for that is getting some people to smoke more than they already do, or at least in the United States.
Well, there's a
You know,
lot of people that won't grow.
that won't grow.
Yeah, there's a lot of people that will never grow. So there'll be that conversion.
No, but I'm just saying that it's so easy to grow a lot, and
Doesn't
even a
matter.
small. It's easy to grow so much to supply everybody. You know what I mean? It's like that. There's no reason why prices would have to stay high. Just
But
about
the
it.
people that don't grow are going to still have to go buy pot because it's easy to grow tomato too, but they don't grow tomatoes either.
yeah,
So you
following the
see some
pattern of
dudes that
society,
they're going
everybody's
to
gonna go hit that grocery store.
yeah, they're not going to grow pot either. They're going to buy pot. So there'll still
If
be
there's a
half the
readily
people.
available clone, if they go down to the grocery store and there's a clone there, and it's already, you know, day length matched to the zone that they live in, and it's some kind of super fancy blue dream yummy stuff, slam it in the ground right now. It's legal. They're gonna be like, "Wow, check that out!" And each one of them is gonna have a 5 pounder at the end of the summer.
Well, no, half of them will kill them just like they would at the tomato plant if they bought the tomato
I
plant.
think it's easier than tomatoes. It's more drought tolerant.
Some people
Okay.
just aren't willing to put in that
Whatever.
effort at all.
I don't want to
I
get
kind of
into
see the
some.
point that Roger's making because I mean, the point of that is when it comes to anything that takes any kind of effort, people just aren't willing to do it.
Thank you. That's my point, probably more than
Just
anything.
not willing to do it.
And then some of them, if they try, they just can't get their head around it, and they're going to kill it. And
But
then so they won't do it either. And I bet
but
you it'll be
prices
more.
get
It'll be
prices get
50-50. 50% of the people
really
will grow.
low. Out here, we've seen amazing dips in prices, like up north,
Yeah,
where they
yeah.
do the light D Pro and they keep coming in with another crop every couple of months. And that's like there's already too much. Okay, dudes, you know, it's whoo.
But
Um,
just because there's too much doesn't mean there's no market for it. You
no,
know,
there is
it
a
just
market, but
means
I'm
that
just saying.
too many people think there's too many people going to buy their pot, but there's too many other people growing pot.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know in Oregon the market was flooded because I was following I can't remember what other podcast this guy's on, but his name is Brown Guy 420, and one of my buddies actually turned me on to him because he uses the organic no-till farming as well. But he had a YouTube series called The Daily Grind, and just recently he uploaded a video talking about their all the efforts they put in throughout the whole year to build up these badass light deprivation greenhouses and
Yep.
just the whole farm. It's epic. All of that just basically went to nothing, went to waste. You know, they're having to sell everything because the investors want their return, you know, right away.
Used to be
Anyway,
a good
he was
idea
saying that
because
they're having to sell pounds for like ridiculously low amount, and he was going for the quality side of things,
it's
not so
good.
much quantity. He was wanting to push
Good.
that
Yeah.
organic no-till flour out there in the dispensaries, and it turns out that nobody was caring about quality. They were just like, bring it in, whatever it is. You're not getting very much for it though.
Just a little note on that. I was down in California growing, and I started to learn how to grow some stuff, and then I started learning about, oh, I have this cannabis, but there's this thing called curing. So I kept some in reserve, and I cured it for like 4 months or 5 months or whatever, and I brought it to my jobber, and she brought it around, and it sold out instantly, but none of it made it onto the shelves of the dispensaries. It was just the people in the dispensaries that kept it. And she came back to me and she says, just cut it, dry it, and that's what they want because that's what everybody in the store knows. So I had made some badass, I mean, like it was not blowing smoke at my own, skirts, but it was some really good cured cannabis, and there wasn't a market for it.
Time, and you have to keep the moisture up, and none of the crop that makes it to a dispensary has ever been through that kind of care. You know, that's already into the connoisseur level of caring for your cannabis. You can't buy that at the dispensary. Hell no.
They wouldn't buy it. They just want. Everybody was so used to, hey, this plant was living 10 days ago.
Oh yeah, it's supposed to be. I know. Yeah.
So that's
like,
interesting because
that's
that's
not
the same
green. Of
dilemma
course, it's
we
cured.
have. And
2 week
same
turn.
dilemma we have in produce. We don't get paid a dime more for hydroponic or aquaponic or anything if you're not organically certified. We've argued all about that. We all know about how we feel about aquaponic should be their own
No,
category.
I'll have to
saying,
say, man.
it appears
I've been seeing some aquaponic vegetables in my local grocery store, and they sell for like double of what the regular stuff is going for.
well, that's
Yeah,
pretty
the
cool.
aquaponic,
We've heard of that.
aquaponics you can actually get equal to or better than organic pricing because it's it's better basically. So
Yeah, and when you were talking about that stuff up in Oregon too, we've talked to people up in Washington, Colorado, where the same kind of stuff has happened. And from what I can see, correct me if I'm wrong, I'm just, the guy in the lab here, but I don't think you're going to make it, honestly, in cannabis if you're not growing aquaponically. I mean, if you're indoors, no way in hell. Your overhead's just too high. And then when these prices
Indoors,
drop
it's done
to
with.
$200 a pound, the only way you can make money at $200 a pound is if you're growing aquaponically. Am I wrong, gentlemen?
Indoor is just a result of prohibition anyway, really.
Totally. The only people growing indoors in the future will be breeders. The only reason to grow indoors is to be able to push genetics through. I've done 5 or 6 generations a year. Not to flex my muscles or anything. But yeah, I mean, that's the only good reason in the future, for sure. I mean, I'm going to be the only guy with lights. It'll be like, you fucking fossil. No, for sure. Everybody's going to move into outdoors,
Yeah, but you're not
Solar panels, man. Solar it up and make it sustainable, at least if you're going to grow indoors. That's something that, you can't argue with that. I don't care who you are.
Yeah, that would be nice. I'd like to have a greenhouse. I'd like to have a Well, it's been great lately to be able to, partner with other people and to start to reach the fingers out into the community and get involved in other breeding projects. But I'd like to have more space myself. I'm still in this little apartment in San Clemente, tiny little place. Pretty funny.
Downtown Los Santo. No, I'm just kidding.
What's that?
In downtown Los Santo.
Where's that?
That's
Where's...
a Grand Theft Auto reference. Just making a
Oh
joke.
yeah, look, I don't know. I never played Grand Theft Auto.
Here.
I'm not much of a gamer. I played back in the day. I played Wizardry. In the very beginning of some of the first-person shooters, I think I played like Duke Nukem. Um, what was it? Castle Wolfenstein.
Mhm.
Some of these are like the original FPSs, aren't they?
I
Yep.
did Pong.
Pong, right? Fuck yeah.
Alrighty,
You know what
well,
was fun was Descent was the first three-dimensional, the first 3D one. It was after the FPS's ones, and it was like, and some people at first they like got seasick with it. It was so funny. People were like, oh, I can't handle that because it
well,
was three-dimensional. It was
we're
like flying
it's
these
almost
things.
almost 9:30 here on the West Coast, and I think it's 12:30 almost on the East Coast. So, figure we'll wrap things up. Why don't you tell people how to find you there, Brain Grow?
Yeah, like I was talking about earlier, make sure you check out my Instagram. It's brain BRAYNE _grow GRO, and I'll be posting some cool stuff over there pretty soon. I forgot to mention that with the material I used from my hash, I actually I'm trying to make some wine out of it, so I thought that'd be a pretty cool project to start. And like I said, my mushrooms and all that stuff. And then I'm over on IloveGrowingMarijuana.com as well with Roger and all those guys, basically posting over there most often. And I'm probably gonna have another YouTube video coming up pretty soon on the hash that I've just been making this week. So be looking out for that as well.
Cool. What about you, Mr. Green Jeans?
Oh yeah, greenjeansgarden.com. Yeah, that's me. You can find me there. Somebody said it wasn't on the last. Wasn't on the list of. You didn't have my URL there or something like that.
Well, you
Oh,
got to
we'll
pay
get
your
it fixed.
dues. You got to pay your dues.
You gotta pay
We'll
my
get
due.
we'll get it fixed. There's a couple people I think I need to add that are the group is not the same. Like Aquaponic Dummy hasn't been on
And
it
I'm in
forever.
San Clemente. Any of you West Coast guys, man, anytime you're around, man, come over.
And what was it? Silver Arm 32 came down and hung out with me in
Oh yeah.
Old Park Groves there for a little bit. I think we might see him again this weekend. He's
Cool.
not super close to us, but he's not super far either. So we spent a little time hanging out. He got a chance to try some of our sublingual powder and some of our other cool goodies. So some dabs. So it was really cool to
Yeah.
hang out with him, meet him, talk to him. He's been doing this longer than all of us combined. So maybe not all of us combined, but at least all of us. He had the first aquaponic cannabis channel that was around, so it was cool to see him. And what about you,
Cool.
Roger? How do people find you?
I'm still over there running and with all my team and great guys at IloveGrowingMarijuana.com, and that's about it. That's all I've been doing. It's that time of year where we're just now getting to where people are starting to come back out on the forum because all the outdoor growers are getting ready. But I'm also I'm in my time of the year where I've got all this new growth happening that I gotta get ahead of around the farm, and I've got to get my greenhouse up and running. This is usually about the time I start cleaning it all out and getting it all ready for the season, and it's time to plant some seeds for food for the greenhouse. So that's what. But as far as finding me, the only place you can really find me is IloveGrowingMarijuana.com at this point. And I will get you that link you asked me about, since that Mr. Green Jeans brought that up. I don't know what I was thinking before, but yeah, I've got a link to give you, Steve, for that too.
Cool. Awesome. And alrighty. What about you, Tommy? Where do people find you?
Oh, you can find me at Old Fart Grows, but I've not been uploading videos there. I'm threatening to share some stuff on there. I've been doing some lab work, and I'm going to work with Steve on getting some very detailed, well-filmed covering of making this oil that everybody seems to love, and getting some information out there. And I've been working on some chemistry kinds of projects, learning my new art, if you will. I hope to be able to share that. I have to kind of figure out how that's going to work because I don't know. But yeah, you can find me at Old Park Rose, or if you just need to ask a question or whatever on getting some stuff mixed up, how to get some medicine for people. I'm always available for that. I'm oldfartgrows@gmail.com. I don't always check the YouTube stuff, but my email always pings. So if you need a little help getting something done, you can always ping me at oldfartgrows@gmail.com. Or here, I'm around here more often than anything else.
Yippers. Alrighty. You guys know how to find me. Shout out again to Rob Bob for coming on the show, especially taking time from Australia. And yeah. Thanks for everyone. I'm gonna go eat dinner now. Have a good one. Thanks again for joining us. Take care.
Peace out, everybody. Hey, thanks everybody out there for watching us.